Okay.
Hi, Paul. Phone there.
Cheers. It's good to see you.
It's so good to see you. Cheers. Oh, that's good. When is the last time we saw each other? Was it DZ Fest like 2018?
DZ 2019. Well,
Did you play 2019?
actually, no.
It was
It was 2018.
It's been 3 years?
I think it's been 3 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How's COVID?
Kinda, yeah.
And you
And I
don't live
moved.
in Chicago
Right.
anymore. You moved to Oakland first?
I moved to
Yosemite.
just outside of Yosemite
Right.
in March 2017. No, late April 2017. And then I was there like 6 to 9 months. From there, I was in Oakland for a year and a half. And then after that, I was in Portland for a year. And then from Portland to LA, where I presently reside. So it's been like
That's a journey.
it's a journey. It's like 3 or 4 cities in 3 years.
Why so much moving, and why those cities?
I think my initial impetus to leave, I guess, was, it's interesting going back to 2017 because it feels like a long time ago,
It does.
but it really isn't. So I think Trump getting elected kind of fucked with my head in a lot of ways. It seemed like just this completely insanely irrational event, which it was.
Yeah, it was.
And things seemed very finite and short term, in my mind at least, after then. And I at my old job many moons ago, I had gotten fired randomly in March. I was apparently a bit too short with a customer, so I was told later. They were just kind of like, what do you call it? Just kind of like getting rid of our department and just doing other stuff. But it was like, oh, you're rude to so-and-so, so bye.
This is in Chicago.
This was in Chicago.
This is March 2017.
March 2017. And I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? At that time, I was sort of thinking I wanted to move west. I was finding myself taking vacations to national parks a lot and being like, gosh, this is like great. I really enjoy doing this. And then I got fired and I was like, okay, well, everything's kind of off the table. I don't really know what I'm going to do. And I had a buddy of mine who was a part owner of this kind of ranch outside of Yosemite. And they had like a work trade program. So like after I like got the phone call, you're fired, I was like, okay. And then I called my friend. I was like, can I come do the work trade? He's like, sure. And then I just made the decision. It was very impulsive. And I love Yosemite, but, you know, obviously I had lived in Chicago the last decade and had built up a lot of relationships. And the band, obviously, Bora Bora, was a huge part of my life.
One of my favorite bands ever, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. So it was like, I don't know. It was it's a sacrifice for sure to be able to then, you know, not have that in your life or to leave, you know, because then it's like, well, when are we going to do this? It's like, well, kind of, I don't know. We'll see what's happening in the world. What's going to go down?
Yeah.
We don't know. So,
May I ask, how does one override that feeling? The feeling of music, your friends, the camaraderie, the establishments that you've created here, and just leave? Like, how do you override that emotional attachment?
It's not easy. I still like think about it, I guess. I don't, not so much anymore. There was a period of time where, you know, the choice, it seemed like maybe I had made the wrong choice, because you start to think about, well, what really matters to me, what makes me happy. And
Was there another person with you, or were you just alone on this?
I was alone. I was in a relationship at the time, so that was hard too, with a woman in Chicago. It was impulsive. I think I was just like, I'm getting out of here. I don't know. I want to
How
go
old
to
were you when this happened?
36. So I just wanted to kind of, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to get away and be in nature, do something else. It didn't seem like, oh, well, I'm not going to play like music anymore. It's just like, I'm just going to not like really prioritize that so much right now, because I don't really know what's going on in the world, and I'm like confused. And I'm just going to get out of here. But I don't know. It's I don't know. We go through different phases. I don't know. We can have different reinvention tours later. Who knows what you'll be into in like 5 years? Maybe some other passion will call you. You
Absolutely.
know, I'll always like play music and write songs. And with the group Bora Bora, like I'm back this past week. We had our first rehearsal in a few years. It was like, you know, like we never missed a beat.
Yeah.
It was
How is
great.
everybody?
So great and good. But also there were things at the time within the band that I knew were going to cause like a pause. One of the band members was having a baby. So it was just like, well, that's going to like...
Donnie, right?
Donnie had
Yeah.
a child, and he was about to have one like in the summer of 2017. So it had seemed like, oh, things on the horizon. We'll probably have to take a little rest anyway. Let's see what's up, because things happen in people's lives. You know,
Sure.
you get married, you have a kid, or like something else happens. Somebody has to move, you know, another opportunity comes along. So
I understand that.
you have to kind of like adjust. And at the time I loved the West Coast. I loved Yosemite. So that's where I went. And then that wasn't going to be a permanent thing. So I was still in the relationship. We had decided to like, let's try and see what this can be.
Did she go with?
We started in Oakland, and that didn't work out. So, but it was an attempt, and it was my first time living not my first time in a West Coast city, but my first time, like, I guess as an adult trying to like make a life in a new place, which all the, you know, as beautiful as it was, as cool as it was, it's like, okay, now I'm like a new person in this new community starting all over again. What's that like? So, I didn't play any music in Oakland. We had recorded some stuff and right before I left, and I just kind of worked on mixing that, and kind of that was sort of it. That was my outlet. So like getting together, I looked for people to play with, I guess, you know, but it just wasn't on the top of my priorities at the time in 2017, 2018. Again, the world just felt like this crazy, insane, irrational place. I didn't really feel like this is the time for any kind of self-indulgence into art or music. It just didn't feel to me, my conscience just didn't feel like that was something that felt good doing when there was so much insanity happening around. And then Oakland didn't work out, so I left and went to Portland. I have family there, so I'd always liked Portland. I was going to go to Portland or LA because, again, I have another family member in LA, so I just opted for Portland because I like the smaller vibe. And in Portland, it seemed like I was kind of ready to get back into playing, but like more as like I was just wanted to kind of be a sideman, playing bass or keys or whatever.
Why is that?
Being like a front man or whatever, the lead songwriter, you know, is it's great. It's fun for sure, but it's also like a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot of there's just more you have to like manage, I guess, when it's your project primarily. Things like remembering lyrics and like, you know, sort of being the lead for booking shows and getting people together.
Lots of responsibility.
Lots more responsibility when you're sort of the captain of the ship. That just goes with it. So
It's why I haven't been the captain of a band ship for a while.
right,
I play in a bunch of bands, but I have zero of that responsibility. I mean, I have a lot because it happens here. So I got to make sure that I'm free for the practices. I set up everything, the laptop, all the effects, the headphones situation. But I get to like not have to do all that groundwork. Write the songs. I just write my bass parts and my guitar parts.
right.
It's after doing that in a band for so many years, it's 10 times less stressful.
Right. And then, like, you know, I love musicians, but like dealing with it's like herding cats, you know?
It's the worst.
It's hard to get 4 people in a room.
Neurotic
artists. And then like people are like, oh yeah, I can do it. And then they can't do it. Like, oh, I forgot. I have to like, you know, like get my cat fixed at like whatever. It's just like, it's just how it is.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, I just want to like be a part of somebody's project where like they bring all the songs. All I have to do is write a part.
Just chill.
And just chill. So
Yeah.
that was really appealing to me. So I did join this band playing bass. It was like a psych rock band. It was so much fun. But that was like January 2020 when that finally happened. And we played one show, and then we all know what happened after.
That's so funny you said that because the shows I started playing with Neighbors You Know, we played 2 in the city, one at the Subtea and one at Cole's in March, and one at my high school because I had a fest there. So we played 3, and it was January, February, March, and we were super excited. Things were going well. People were coming. We were starting to book other shows in March, April. We had a very promising, like probably playing a couple a month in the city. And then COVID happened, and we were just like completely defeated.
Yeah.
And it just changed everything about the band.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
I love Neighbors, you know, by the way.
Thank you.
You guys sound great.
That's Vinny's. He's the main guy.
That's his main jam.
I played bass for the first record, but now I play guitar because Steven, he moved to Madison for a coffee job. He's into roasting and a coffee wizard. It's where I learned all my knowledge from. But so I started playing guitar, and yeah, it's been interesting. But yeah, that completely like flatlined the trajectory. But we'll come back. You know?
Yeah. So,
So that happened with your band that you were in Portland.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, oh, okay, who knows what's going on? And then at that time, I was working doing medical interpretation, just kind of freelance, where I'd go in and like interpret between the Spanish speaker and like the doctor or whatever.
Right. So can we talk about that?
Sure.
Okay? You speak Spanish and Portuguese. Anything else?
English. And just those 3
And
for now.
very fluent.
Yes.
I,
yes.
I know people who speak another language and never want to admit to it because if they know it well enough, they hear it better from others. So they get really. It's like someone who plays guitar. Like, you're good. It's like, nah. When you hear a classical guitar player, you're like, no, they're good, and then they don't think they're good, and it just scales upward.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. With speaking, no one's ever proud of their ability to speak another language. Like, I'm not that good. It's like, I would never know.
Right.
When you speak, all the times I've heard you sing in Spanish and Portuguese, it sounds very fluent to me. I don't know the difference.
Yeah, I think fluency is very subjective.
Yeah.
I think you can be fluent in discussing like subjects.
Would you be able to do a podcast in Spanish?
I could do a podcast in Spanish.
Would you be able to do one in Portuguese?
Portuguese would be a little tougher. Portuguese hasn't like been in my like a part of like my life as much as like Spanish has in the last year, but like I could probably get through it.
And where did that come from? How did you learn those languages and why?
Spanish, I for whatever reason realized it would be beneficial to know that language. I think as like I grew up and started to realize the world outside of myself, like how big the globe is and how many places I could go to that speak Spanish. And
It's smart.
yeah, and there's a lot of, there's just so many different cultures and countries that speak Spanish that I'm attracted to. So,
Yeah.
and it's the second language of the country, whether people want to admit it or not. So I did right before I graduated college, I studied abroad for 3 months in Spain, and I lived with a couple Spanish guys. So that kind of got it into the brain, germinating well. But then after college, I moved to Mexico for a year.
Wow.
And I taught English at this college. I guess
What did you study in college? What was your major?
History and Spanish.
Okay.
There in Mexico is where it like really became a part of like my soul, I guess you could say. It's because it's like when you speak another language, you sort of inhabit another personality, another soul. It seems like another like person kind of comes through. Like it's still me, but when I'm speaking Spanish, but it's definitely like Pablito. It's definitely like that version of me comes through.
That's so interesting you say that, because from what I've gathered in my life, it seems like your consciousness and the way you interact and interface is based on language, because it's all based on the objects, the physical world, and you put sounds to it, and those sounds end up representing something.
Exactly.
But we think in that way. When you think in a language. So if you're speaking another language, there's a culture, there's a history, there's different ways, there's different art, there's different philosophies that come with it. And there's also different like life experiences with those people. And with that probably comes a whole nother way to see the world, a whole nother way to see gender, to see food, to see color, because of the way it's expressed, even in the passion behind what it is to that culture. And I think that's why like learning a second language is so important, or at least if you don't have the time or the ability or the skills to do it, especially if you started way later, at least being aware of that is really important, and understanding what that means. And a goal of mine is to learn Spanish. So do you have, because I'm half Mexican, my dad could speak Spanish, he didn't teach it to me, which that's a whole other story. But a lot of my family could speak Spanish, and I took Spanish classes, but it never stuck with me. It didn't stick well. Do you have any advice?
For me, the way I learn things is experientially. So for me, I had to place myself in the country.
To go to Mexico.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And I was one of like 2 or 3 gringos in a town of like 60,000. So there wasn't really a ton of opportunity to even speak English. So there was a lot of just like making lots of mistakes, and but then just like living and experiencing, hearing like colloquialisms, different phrases, reading signs and
different slang.
Yeah, Mexican Spanish has a lot of slang.
What city were you in?
I was in a town called Huachinango, which is in the state of Puebla. Sort of in the north in the Sierra Madre Mountains. I was 3 hours east of Mexico City and 3 hours west of the Gulf of Mexico.
Sounds beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was, it's kind of like rainy-ish, sub-temperate climate. But I would go to Mexico City a lot, and I would, just jump on the bus.
Any issues with police, cartel?
Oh yeah. I was there 2005, 2006, right before like the Central War between the cartels and the government got like really militarized and really, really bloody. I sort of stuck out, so I did have a random 1 or 2 interactions with police that I just kind of bribed my way out of.
Really?
Yeah, but that's just kind of, you have to know how to roll, and you have to know like your place too. Like
What were you doing that they even bothered you?
I was urinating in public.
Oh.
So, but it was at night, and
Was it in an alley or something?
it was at an alley.
Oh, that's fine.
I know. Yeah.
I can't believe people get in trouble for that. Like, you should get. Well, first of all, if there was public bathrooms funded by the
seriously.
taxes that we pay, then we wouldn't even have to worry about that. But it's like not the same as like indecent exposure. It should not be treated like
it's like
every-
this is an emergency. Like I have to go to the bathroom.
Every man I've ever met has peed in public.
Of course,
I do it.
I think I did it like last week. Like,
I walk in forest a lot, people. Like I
Right.
don't know what to tell you.
yeah, I enjoy going to the bathroom outside too if I can.
It's free.
yeah,
It wastes no water.
no.
The earth can handle it. It's been
For
peed
sure.
on for
Before.
millions of years.
And usually, if it's that much of an emergency, then it's probably very diluted with water. You know?
Like women will never understand.
No, and they are very envious of that
They
special
are.
power.
They
have.
say it all the time, and I'm like, I know. I'm sorry.
And I wish I could have multiple orgasms, so they have that. So
Yeah, they don't even know what it's like. Also, they don't know what that is like to not be able to do that, and to an erection is quite annoying.
yeah, it can be a schizophrenic sort of thing.
It's extremely annoying when you're like, I don't want this right now. Like the sooner people realize there's definitely a connection you can have with it, but also there's a detachment where you don't really have a choice sometimes, and it just occurs.
No,
You're like,
yeah.
I'm not even.
Biology and chemistry is a wild thing. Mm-hmm. So
I don't know why. Anyway, back to Mexico and bribing police officers for peeing in public.
being in public, so very like limited kind of stuff. But I think every white person should be a minority somewhere in the world for a
Wow,
period
that's
of
an
time.
interesting thing to think about.
It's good to have that experience, to be a minority and to kind of stand out, to have people pay attention to you or treat you differently because of your race and who you are. So that's
wise. I agree with you.
that was a good experience, but it like cemented Spanish in my brain for sure. And then
How much did you have to pay them?
what to go there?
No, to pee in public and get caught. How much did you
I
bribe?
paid them way too much money. I paid them way too much
How much
money.
money?
I paid them like 500 pesos.
How much that is?
At
How much
the
is that US
time,
currency?
like $50.
That sounds fair to me to not deal with some chaos.
Yeah, but then all
not
my
go to
friends
jail.
were like, "Oh, you paid like way too much.
How much-
I can't believe you did."
How much would they normally take?
I don't know. They would be like, "You should have done like 200 or 100, 3."
So $20.
Yeah.
Oh
I'm
my
like-
God! You know
I'm
how
like-
much money you'd have to pay in America to get away with that?
I was just like,
$5,000.
exactly. Like
So-
I wasn't trying to go to like jail or
Yeah.
like be, like in another country. So it was worth it ultimately.
That's so funny. $50.
50
People giving you
bucks.
crap. That's not that much money
really-
to get away with
to
not
get
going
away
to a
with not-
Mexican jail.
Exactly.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. And it was totally worth it. But beyond that, it really it was a wonderful experience. And I love Mexico and I love Mexican history and culture and food, obviously. So I traveled around Mexico a lot and
so
just
cool.
had lots of random, interesting, cool experiences. And it cemented Spanish in my brain for sure. So that's where Spanish came in. And then Portuguese, I just always loved Brazilian music. And I was
Now,
like,
who'da
what are they
thought?
saying? I want to know what they're saying so bad. And it's like sort of like probably the natural progression after Spanish in the Romance languages to learn. But you need somebody to speak with, and you need context and someone to say something too. So I didn't have that in Chicago until I started dating a Brazilian woman for like a year, and then like
Was that on accident or on purpose?
probably both.
Or like, yeah, isn't that weird how that works? Like, even with like friends, like making new friends or something, like it's almost exactly what you need, but you're almost also looking for it.
Yeah, I was sort of calling it in. I was calling in a Brazilian woman into my life. because it's.
Were you praying every night for it?
I was just like, there was something about the focus of and the intensity for wanting to know this language and for listening to the music like so much that it just seemed like it attracted somebody into my life who could like help me.
You open up those doors.
You kind of open up those doors. So
Absolutely.
that person came into my life, and then it's like, great, here we go, Portuguese. So we were at like that kind of the same level. Like her English was as good as my Portuguese at the time, which like wasn't great. So it was like perfect match.
Yeah.
So,
you can struggle together speaking English to help her,
and
and you can struggle with Portuguese, to help yourself.
Exactly. So that's where the Portuguese came in, and again, I had somebody to communicate with. I had things to talk about.
That's kind of cool. That was probably a really unique experience.
It was, yeah, it was great. So then and then I was like, okay, now I'm wanting to write songs in Portuguese now that I have like things to say. And she could help me tweak stuff, or maybe that's not what we would say. We'd say it a little differently, but like, it opened up. Knowing other languages allows you, if you write songs, to say things in a different way that you wouldn't say otherwise in English, and to express yourself. Sometimes just very much more directly, and it's always about melody for me. So like language has melody and sounds. So as long as like the melody like works, then it's a whole new way to write a song.
That's so interesting. It's a big issue that when you only speak one language, like I do, it's so hard to understand that other languages, like not everything translates. Like there aren't always the same words or even the same way of saying something or what it even means represents. Like some objects might be more masculine or feminine in other languages. In English, they're not, or the way you say it or how it's presented. And it's a very hard thing to wrap your head around if you don't speak another language. It keeps, kind of in a bad way, it keeps your world small and your experience small. To at least not even understand that or be okay with knowing that is how languages work. They're not just point to point a translation exact.
No, it never is.
No language does that.
Which is why it's at first when you're starting a new language, you are like just kind of translating in like directly to make it easier. But like Spanish is not English and Portuguese is not Spanish, and like you don't say it's just never as like literal as ultimately it is. Like you are just like it's not trying to directly translate. It's just like experience the language. Like this is how essentially this is,
and the cultural context of it. Like I've heard people say like, oh, it's much more fun in that language. Like I had a person on last week who spoke Russian, and she had a saying and a joke. And she said in English, and she's like, it's cool, but it's much better in Russian because if you're from there, then you get what that even means and how it's said and how it's an old thing from hundreds of years being passed. Like, it's just different. In English, you're like, oh, that's cool. But it like doesn't mean the same thing or make sense,
Yeah, well, it's literally you're bending your brain. You're giving it more flexibility and plasticity when you start to introduce these new concepts and ways of thinking. So it can be tiring. I remember when I first was in Mexico, the first couple months, I would fall asleep at like 6 or 7 p.m. because I was so tired. My brain was so tired from having to like think and struggle and interpret and comprehend and then speak.
I think that's why music means so much to people because it is a universal language. It has all the qualities, characteristics of language.
Yes.
It has melody, it has pattern, it has rhythm, it has dynamics, it has in between notes that kind of just go right between one point to another, just like a language does. Yet there's no actual like specific meaning to the note. If you take a C, just a C on a chord, or an A440, and you hit it, that sound is the same across for everyone. Whereas if you were to say something in a different language, someone might not get it. So I feel like, there's different techniques and different styles of music across the world, but when you take a single sound and a single pattern and a single timing is the same everywhere. Like as far as just like a beat to another beat, you're gonna have different time signatures which are more popular in certain parts of the world. But as far as just like boom, that is how loud that is the same for people. How they perceive, not the same, but how they perceive loudness. They'll know like that's louder than the next thing, and then there is a pitch. And I think that's why people love music so much, because it's the only thing we could all connect on and get something out of. If you listen to it in a language, you'd be like, that's beautiful, but I have no idea what they're saying.
Right, exactly.
But music isn't like that. You can just enjoy what it is and how it feels, and anyone with a different language barrier can relate to it. That's why, like, your music, I love it. You sing in another language sometimes, and yet I still can relate and enjoy it and get something out of it.
Right, yeah, that's exactly. Sound is sound and melody's melody, and it's going to resonate with you whether you understand what the person's saying or not. So, like, we've had one time we did a show and somebody like pulled up like translation cards of like what we were saying, but for the most part, it's like no, it's like doesn't matter. You don't have to like know what I'm saying.
I love listening to music where I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah, and because it's you're just experiencing it for yourself completely on your own and making up what the interpretation is.
You can almost start to understand what they're saying if you listen to it enough. Like I've been listening to a lot of French music. Courtesy of somebody, and whenever I listen to it more and more, and I'm like, I think I'm starting to understand what they're saying.
Right.
I don't even know what they're saying, but I could just by living life and experiencing pain and love, I think I'm starting to understand like what they're getting at.
Right.
It's a weird feeling if you do it enough.
Yeah, you're getting like the emotional content though.
Yeah.
So you're starting to like connect on a human level with what this person's saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get it when you just listen to someone else speak in a different language. You could see the social cues, how their eyes are, their nose, their mouth, their cheeks. Are they smiling? Are they crying? You know something good or bad is happening.
Right.
You know, it's quite fascinating. How often do you write in Spanish or Portuguese for music?
It'll depend on the progression. So the music always comes first for me. And in Bora Bora at least, I write mostly on the guitar. And so I've got like whatever noodles or progression I'm working on. And then I'll start to like hum or make up words to figure out a vocal melody. And then definitely like the personality of the progression will lend itself to that language. So some songs feel more Spanish speaking and some feel like, oh, that's a Portuguese vibe for sure. It just kind of like, it's like a birth, I guess. And like that song just like speaks that language. It's never, I'm not one of those people who like is like writing lyrics all the time or whatever. And then like, oh, I need to put this to music. It's just the music will come first and then the vocal melody. And then out of that melody will come a word or a phrase in either English, Spanish, or Portuguese. But definitely like the feeling of the progression will seem like it has like a whatever language personality assigned to it.
Have you ever written anything in another language, a poetry, a story?
Yeah, I think I like to write poetry in Spanish.
Oh.
That's the only language I could write poetry in, I think.
I would love to read that.
Yeah, I'd like to
cool. provide
it to you. Yes.
We should exchange poems.
We should. Do you do Spanish poems?
No, I do English poems. Do you write often?
Not often. I've got like a series of like metaphysical Spanish poems. For whatever reason, I just think Spanish works very well for me as a poetry format. I don't think anything I write that goes with music is like poetry, really. It's when you're just looking at like the written word and the flow and the spacing, when you're just looking at like a poem, or to me, my interpretation or understanding of what I consider to be poetry, just is a different format or context than just like a chorus and a verse or something like that.
Absolutely.
But Spanish, for whatever reason, is the language that lends itself to me to express myself in a poetic form.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. I like that. How long have you been writing that for?
Just a couple of years, whenever the inspiration will strike sudden and you just got to like write it down. And then...
so it's a more later feature of your life is poetry.
For sure.
That's cool. That's cool you got into it later. A lot of people... I mean, I don't know what it's like. It's always been pretty prevalent and innate in my life, but a lot of people fear it. Mm-hmm. It might be one of the most feared forms of expression.
Sure.
Because it's like you're really putting yourself out there and you're using a language that everyone around you knows. So they know your intent, what you're saying. When you take a photograph or a painting, that's so up for interpretation.
Yeah.
Because it's not a language. Language is, it's the same thing with music, why it's so hard for someone to write lyrics and sing in front of people. It's so hard because you're like...
you're so vulnerable.
And when you write a poem and you're like, here, I wrote a poem, read it, it's on Instagram, or you write a book, or it's such a strange place to be. And I almost feel like writing poetry, it might be one of the most vulnerable things you can do. For me personally, has made it so easy to talk to people because I already got that out of the way.
Yeah.
I already ripped off the Band-Aid when I was 13 years old when I started writing it, and I've always been open with myself since those days.
Exposed, for sure.
Very exposed.
On a very vulnerable human level. And if it's just like poetry, there's no guitar or tambourine to like hide behind. There's nothing.
And reading it in front of people.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I've done a couple of those. I'm gonna try to do some more soon. I had a couple planned out, but I'm gonna try to do more anywhere I go. My goal is when I go to cities to visit, I'm just gonna try to go to open mics.
That's cool. You should.
Because then you're like completely like, these people don't know me.
Right, yeah.
I don't know them either. And when you do it in Chicago, when I do in Chicago, the chances are I'll run into people. And then I'm like, oh no, I got to...
They'll see and hear my words.
But I really don't care. It helps a lot with just breaking that down and easier.
It's such a wonderful spiritual practice to do, to go on a stage and...
It's so terrifying.
Be seen. Well, yeah, it is. It is for sure. I don't get stage fright at all anymore. I haven't in years. And I think the reason why is because, like, I used to, like, approaching a stage felt like an out-of-body, like, experience, and it would affect my performance because I was so self-conscious. And then... you bomb a bunch of times and then you're either gonna like keep doing it or not. And then I had the same, like I bombed a bunch of times and then it was like, okay, well I'm still alive.
It doesn't kill you at all.
This is okay. And why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to and it's for me. It's actually not really for an audience. I'm just kind of doing it because for whatever reason I'm called to like do this because I'm a strange person.
But isn't that an amazing feeling? It's exhilarating when you truly do something selfless. I know it sounds selfish because you're doing it for yourself, but I think it's a selfless act because you're putting yourself in a position where you get to express yourself, so you get something off your chest, out of your mind, into your heart. And then to who knows how many people are in the crowd, somebody can take something from it.
Somebody can.
Even if they don't like what you said or your music, it was an experience they just went through.
Right.
And chances are one person always gets something out of it.
For sure.
And knowing that you got something out of it inward, and then you put it out into the world and they got something out of it, that feeling is priceless.
Oh, yeah. That's why you keep going back and why you keep doing it. And even if it's like, I don't know, it got me thinking about like, oh, what's like a bad performance then, really? Because like if you have a bad performance or it doesn't go as well as you would have anticipated, it's like there's so much insight and information you can get out of that. Like a bad show or a bad, like, it's like, well, why did that go bad? What kind of lesson am I getting out of that? Then it's extremely beneficial. So was it really bad? You know, if it's giving you all this insight and information as to how you'll approach it differently next time, you have to go through it. So you have to do anything because you want to, ultimately. You shouldn't do any form of art for sure for somebody else, you know.
No.
It has to be for you first.
Do you ever feel like you can sense that in someone after you've probably been creating forms of art for, 20 years?
Like, yeah, 15 years.
So you have a lot of experience in that world. Do you ever feel saddened when you can tell someone might be doing it for likes, for...
No, I don't really care.
You don't think about it?
No, well, do whatever you want.
Do whatever works
It
for you?
doesn't really fucking matter to me.
Yeah.
If it makes you happy, cool. If you're like doing it for like completely like your own self-promotion and it comes across as vacuous and just vain, then it's probably not going to resonate with me. But it doesn't mean it's like not for somebody else or not for you. Again, everybody has to like come to the truth and realization of like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing anything?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
I wish more people felt okay with that. Too many the simplified, too many haters. Just like I might not agree with it. I might not care, but like whatever. Let the person do their thing.
It doesn't really, how is it bothering or affecting me? Because I'm going to continue to do what I want. Like in the context of music, it's like, well, that's cool. I'm still going to, it doesn't affect me in any way whatsoever because I have my own life and interests and who cares? The more creation in the world, honestly, like the better. Again, even if it's like bad, it's all subjective. It's all just like, well, then why is it bad? Why? What about it is not creating the connection or like what, like to me, like everybody's looking for a different fix when it comes to music or art or what they are getting out of it. For me, it's definitely like I need to have like an emotional like connection. I need to establish or feel like a person's spirit, coming through. I don't really care. Again, just with music, I don't care about like technicality. I don't care about virtuosity. I don't care about I don't care about like somebody even singing on pitch. Like as long as like I can feel somebody's heart or spirit coming through, that's all that matters.
I agree with you.
I'm more, I like a Daniel Johnston recording on his tape, like, and him maybe being off pitch or off time a little bit, but like his entire soul, like pulsating through that tape hits me harder than like a really refined, overproduced, hyper-technical, great musical on time performance or deliverance.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one. It is way more about the spirit, the intention behind your delivery from your heart. It's always been that way. I think that's what makes for great friendships. Not everyone has to be the same or on the same page or as intelligent or as accomplished or has the same college degrees or has the same bank account with a lot of money in it or no money in it. It should matter who you are at your core, your character. It's such an age-old saying, but it's so true. It's the context
and
of the character.
And that comes through. That comes through. You can feel it if they're doing it in front of you or through a recording or someone's sincerity with like what they're doing. That's more appealing to me. Even if the music isn't my bag, it's like, well, but like I I love that they're doing that and they're doing their truth and it's coming through. That's great.
Absolutely. Coffee break. Yeah, some people are so intimidated by it. It's a daunting task to try to express themselves, and they kind of go inward. And I feel like everyone can express themselves. It's going to be in different ways.
Yeah.
You should just try.
You have to smash your ego into pieces. And that's going to require you being humbled and you being vulnerable as shit.
Yeah.
And in front of people. And that can be
breaking down sometimes.
Embarrassing. And that can be, it creates a whole other level of analysis to your sense of self and psyche that can really psych people out. Understandably so, it's, again, in the context of music, like speaking or singing into a microphone in front of people for the first couple times is just not fucking easy. It's hard to do that, to hear yourself coming back, and it's hard, but it's like those initial stages, those failures or whatever, are like the most important thing to it, because you're learning about yourself, right? You're doing this to like get spiritual fulfillment. Yes. So, if you're having an intense experience and maybe it doesn't go as well, then you got exactly what you were looking for. And then that'll just continue to teach you. And then at least in my experience, you become less self-conscious.
Yeah.
Because then you're just like, oh, I'm just like in the flow of like this thing I'm participating in that gives me joy.
Mm-hmm. It also makes you way less judgmental of others.
Oh, for sure.
Because you can go and look at them like, I know what it is to struggle. When you see someone perform or read a poem or a book, you see them skip a word or stutter.
Mm-hmm.
I relate to that so much.
So much.
I stutter all the time. I always misspeak. I always enunciate a word, in an improper way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of issues with that, and it's a nervous tick coupled with an actual speech impediment, like together. And then you're doing it in front of people. The nerves come together, and it's a hot mess sometimes. But you get better at it, and it helps you to understand when others struggle with it or when they go through that, and it helps you to see when people are full of themselves, when they won't do it. They'll talk a lot, but they won't actually go through with any actions.
Sure.
And not in a negative way, but to understand, like, it gives you an insight to them. Like, maybe they need to get something off their chest. Maybe they're going through something they're too afraid to do it. And that's why they're pushing it onto people instead of reflecting inward.
Right. I mean, talk is cheap. You guys got to go do it. And then like live it, and then do it again the next day. And then ultimately, like, you're not that important.
No.
And like the
you
world's
strike me
going
as
to
someone who, oh wow, I'm in love with you, Paul. I say that stuff all the time. Whenever I have that ego rush and that the comparison, comparing yourself to somebody else, and you hear other people talk about their achievements or who they are, their car or whatever, money. I just tell them, like, the world's going to end. Your way of saying it is, I just say, like, I'm going to die just like you.
Yeah.
And that's the same way of saying the world's going to end. Because when you die, your world's over with, right? So maybe.
So don't get so preoccupied with, like, how the open mic went.
Yeah.
Because really nobody's going to remember tomorrow.
No.
The only one that's thinking about it is you. And, it should only matter to you and really nobody else. And, like, it's kind of irrelevant, like.
And maybe it only matters because you actually care, and you really want to go forward with something, and that's why you're stuck. You're spinning on an anxiety spiral, that little carousel of going around. And I do it every day,
I do it with everything in my life, for sure. We all, we're human.
Does.
Everybody fucking does.
I don't know why people push that down and say that they don't, or they look down on those who have anxiety or depression, or they take medicine, or they need a therapist. It's like maybe they're just taking an active role in trying to help themselves,
which is great because we all have to like share this society together. So the more people like in therapy and taking care of themselves, the better.
Absolutely.
Like, do whatever you have to do. I'm in therapy. And more people should be. It's great to be able to have an hour to just voice all of your stuff.
I'm in therapy right now.
That's great. Me and you.
I'm not in actual therapy. I'm in my own therapy.
It's therapeutic.
I have
for sure.
I have 4 forms of therapy that are true therapy to me, and it's this podcast, my walks, playing music, and exercise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exercise is a big one for me too, because I find if I exhaust my body, then my brain isn't as anxious because I'm just tired after
You
that,
just
and I
knock
get it
out.
all out, get all the anxiety out.
And honesty. I think honesty is therapy. And just
Radical honesty sometimes too.
oh, it's brutal.
Yeah,
I've
it's
been
brutal.
brutally honest with guests on here, with people in my life personally. And it's hard at first, and sometimes it's off-putting, but man, the results are so much better.
Yeah.
To have complete transparency is, I've never felt so alive in my life than I have with friends, family. I've been so honest with people lately, especially like COVID and the circumstances that came with it in my life personally really opened that door to like
completely.
You have to be honest.
You really do.
With yourself first and foremost, and with everyone around you, starting with those closest. And they see it, and it might help them to try it too. When they're like, oh, this...
I think so too.
You know?
I think maybe that's a universal thing that's happened as a result maybe of the Rona, and hopefully that stays, and just people being like completely reprioritizing in their lives and looking at relationships in a much more finite and critical, but in a good way, sort of circumstances. Like what kind of relationships do I really want? What kind of like a romantic partnership like really, really, really fucking makes sense for me?
Yeah.
And if none of those, if it doesn't align, then like what's the point of wasting any time?
That's a big one that happened with the Rona. Those romantic relationships.
Oh, for sure.
It pulled them apart or brought them closer. Or it helped you to understand what you need or want as a person, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
For sure. And I was mostly single throughout Corona, which was hard for sure, but at the same time it worked for me because I was like, this road warrior kind of existence during this is fine. I'm good to do this like single, because I didn't necessarily envy my friends who were like just moved into a place with their partner, or like just had a baby, and like now this insane shit was happening, and it's creating much more understandable intense stress and limitations with like how you could grow. And then with other people it made them closer. Sure, I can see that too, but it put a lot of stress on people in relationships, understandably, for
Such
sure.
a weird circumstance.
Yes.
I saw what it did to certain people. It definitely brought people closer. It hurt other people. I mean, I was single for like 7 months of it. So that was very interesting. Very interesting.
It was, I really valued it.
Yeah.
I really valued it.
I focused on myself.
Yeah, myself.
A lot.
And like how do I want to like live now? What do I want to do? What kind of relationships do I want to have with people? What kind of relationship do I want to like have with myself? What matters? And then like at the time, it was just like, well, shit, I'm alive, and like I'm here. That's really great. And like people I know like are too, or at least at that time. And so very rewarding, but also like a ton of reflection and some solo trips, and that were completely invaluable, that like again allowed me to think through how I want to approach my relationships to family, friends, and eventual new romantic partner, whoever.
Yeah, friends became very important. I mean, they've always been important to me, but spending a lot of time with people, because life was so busy before. If you have a full-time job or career and you're in a relationship and other endeavors and hobbies, your friends inherently, not deliberately, but inherently, they become secondary. They become like, when we can,
right,
I guess
sure.
I'll see you. It could be every couple of weeks. It could be 3 years.
Right.
It's like things happen. It's nothing personal. It really isn't. But when that was all stripped away and a relationship ends, you're just kind of like, oh, there's a lot out there, and I have this time now to focus on the people that made me who I am in some way. Your friends always shape your life, if you want to admit it or not.
Mm-hmm.
People around you shape your life. And yeah, spending a lot of time this winter was very interesting. From pretty much September to March, April, I just spent it with friends, roommates, music, hanging out, cooking food, finding out new ways to make vegan cookies, just fun stuff. Everyone exercising together. All my roommates got super healthy. Everyone lost weight.
Yeah.
Everyone did it together. We suffered together, watched movies together, laughed together. When Corona first hit, it was the funniest thing ever. In the front room of this house, my roommates, I didn't participate, but I definitely hung out in there. They built a tent like we were kids again.
Yeah.
Because they literally shut everything down. Sports ended. Music, everything ended that made us who we are. And we're just kind of like, they went inward and they just started building tents. It's the funniest thing
That's
ever.
the best reaction to the virus.
We're talking about adult men here. And I remember we were watching movies and I felt like a kid again. We're eating candy, watching movies. It was like late March, no hope in sight.
Right.
And it just we had fun with it.
Yeah.
What else can you do? We were trapped inside, our bubble shrunk down to our roommates, and that's it. It was a fascinating time.
Fascinating
I feel
time
so
to
bad
live
for
through.
people who did it alone.
Oh,
so bad.
Super alone and without resources. I had lost my job because I was doing the medical interpretation in Portland, and I had started it in February 2020.
Ooh.
And it was around that time, like every appointment, people would be like, they would ask about the coronavirus. Have you been to China? Like, are you experiencing it? It was like, this is like a thing, but it's probably not a big deal. And then it hit. And so like all appointments were canceled that weren't like a heart transplant or whatever. So there was like no work. And so I was out of work for a month, and only that amount of time, very, very luckily and fortunately. But in that period of time, being out of work for a month, I was like, well, I can move home and live with my parents in Chicago, and like that's great. That's great that I'm able to do that. Lots of people don't have that opportunity, even to move back home with their parents, like that felt like a really fortunate blessing circumstance that I could find myself in. Even like in theory, it would have been because like, well, the bottom fell out of like my life where I was, and I couldn't make it work. But it was just like, well, it doesn't matter. I have a place to go ultimately if everything falls apart, and that's something to be very, very like grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
I was grateful more than ever for my roommates. I felt so self-conscious that I was progressing in life, in a career, and having less roommates. And I felt like I was growing, finally getting there, turning 31. And finally, like, from where I came from, it was a huge achievement for me. And then Corona hit, and more people moved back in because they needed places to live. Like, everyone got, like, so many of my friends lost their jobs. They worked in the service industry, the music industry, the touring industry. So, like, people came back in, and it helped me, and we all helped each other financially because of that, and emotionally and mentally. Like, we're around each other. We have each other. We all fell back in love with music again. You saw many vinyl we have now, and watched movies together, and made dinners together, desserts together, played cards, played music, just did everything we enjoy every evening together because people lost their careers, their jobs, it affected me tremendously.
Yeah.
Like I told you last week, July 10th would have been the 10th DZ Fest.
Right.
And instead, the 9th one's happening in September, which to my ego is a huge blow.
Sure.
But if I step outside of my ego, it just means that we were able to get through something together, and this affected everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a selfish thing to be like mad at that it didn't go the way I wanted.
Right.
Because I remember sitting on the stage 7 years ago in 2014, and a friend, it was late at night, it was like a week before it happened. This is back when it was just one stage one day, and someone asked, like, what do you think will happen with this? And I was like, well, there'll be 2 stages next year, and then in 2 years there'll be 2 stages, 2 days, and it'll keep growing, and by the 10th one in July 2021, I remember saying it, like, it'll be 3 days, 2 stages, 50 bands, all these artists, and that'll be the last one. And then here we are, and it never happened.
Yeah.
It was a really weird thing to come to terms with.
Of course, yeah. It's something you had in your mind, and
for
this
7
thing
years,
that was for sure going to happen.
Yeah.
And it
But now I
didn't
don't
happen.
care. Now I'm like glad that everything worked out the way it did because it changed my life.
It changed your life and changed mine. And I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking on the way over here, like, it would be so crazy to like go back in time to like, 2017, right before I moved, and be like, here's like you doing an interview with Ben in 2021. Listen to all this crazy shit that like happened. And it's such a short span of time, and it's like, wow.
It's so funny. Yeah, we've known each other for 6 years.
I know.
Wow, that's cool.
It is very cool.
Recording your EP was one of the most fun experiences ever.
Dude, we were talking about that last night
Really?
at rehearsal. Yeah, because we were, there's this dude sitting in with us to play keys, and so we were just going over a song that we were doing. We were like, this is such
No
a
Jen?
great... What's that?
No Jen?
Jen is in Cali. She couldn't make it, so our buddy Ben is sitting in.
I didn't know, but
yeah, if you were like, hey, I'll play guitar because Donnie can't make it either. His son's turning 4. So again,
man.
it's sort of like band stuff that we were talking about earlier, managing people's lives. And like, okay, you can do it, but you can't do it. Da, da, da. But yeah, we were listening back to that recording. We're like, this is so good. This was so fun to do. Didn't we just knock it out in a day? At least the music.
So what had happened was, it was I want to say it was April or May 2016.
Yes.
Right? And I don't drink or do drugs when I work with bands. It's just like a rule because I want to be professional. And on top of it, I don't want to make a mistake. And I sometimes you just want to get them in and out and not sit there all day because you're high. But you guys were the first band where you were like, we set up everything. You did everything live and the vocals together live. And you guys bought brownies.
Yes.
And you kept saying like, dude, just it's okay. You try. I was like, I don't know. I don't like doing this when I'm like, we're the people. And you said, when you said like, we're taking them too, and it's okay. Like we won't judge you for it. So I set up all the gear. I took one of the brownies. I put on headphones like this, and I laid on that big comfy blue couch downstairs. And to listen to Bora Bora record live and perform your songs live with all that reverb in Logic, and it's really loud in the headphones, and I'm just laying there. It's dark. We had all the weird colored lights everywhere.
Yeah.
It was super dark. It was late at night, probably 8, 9 o'clock. It was one of the best recording experiences ever because I was really high. I sank into the couch.
I remember
into
looking over
infinity.
and seeing you like that, and like sometimes you'd hold the head, but like your eyes were closed.
It was
You were
beautiful.
piecing out.
I'll never forget it, and I'll also never forget you trying to teach Glenn and Jen like the certain ways to say the Spanish words.
Right, yeah.
I was cracking up. Like, no, like this. And he's just like, so he was just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, we still do that because, like that was hard on them too, because they're like, okay, well, so like, what am I saying?
You got to teach them another language that
another
night.
language essentially, but it's like, don't think of it as like think of it as like an instrument. And these syllables make this sound. Just do that. Don't even think about what it means.
Yeah.
And then
the caveat of that night was ordering the Charlie Special.
oh God, I want the Charlie Special now.
Me too. I haven't had it in a long time, and I kind of had it last week, but it's from a different place. But we were hanging outside.
Yes.
And you're like, let's get some pizza, and everyone's hanging out. There's probably a bunch of people around because that's what it was back then. And I was like, yeah. There's this pizza place, we can get the Charlie Special. And you guys thought it was an actual item on the menu.
Yes.
But it's really, Charlie worked there for years. He was a dishwasher. And it was a pizza concept of ingredients he conjured up after years of experimenting with it. And I'm going to give away the secret to the world.
Oh my God.
Because they need to know.
They do.
This combo, it's disturbing.
It's so good.
It's disturbing. You get, a pizza, 17, 18-inch large pizza. You get sausage on it. You ask for crushed red pepper and garlic in the sauce. You get it cooked well done, and you get it cut in small slices. And it's like this weird magical combo that just resonates so well. And there's places that do better. Our favorite places nearby. I'm not going to drop names. But man, so good.
Can you still get the Charlie Special?
And you just have to ask for it. And it confuses a lot of people over the phone because it's not a common thing they do at all. And you have to kind of repeat it. And I'd say 7 times out of 10 they get it right. They'll either forget to put it in the sauce, they'll forget to cut it small, they'll forget to do well done, and they will forget to crush red pepper, because it's not a common thing to ask for garlic and crushed red pepper in the sauce when they put it on, and to cook it well done with small cuts.
Small cuts.
Small cuts is key, because you get these little powerful bites that are, it's not so overwhelming. Sometimes the square tavern style slices are too big. You want smaller amounts. And when it's cooked well done, the cheese is harder, so it stays together better. It doesn't get all gooey in the middle. So it's a lot easier to pick up and hold on to, and you get way more of like a crunch of the crust underneath it, combined with that like garlic spice. I don't know, it's just a great combo. And I've tasted it without sausage. I've done it with pepperoni. I mean, I eat a lot less meat now, but when I go for pizza once in a while, I have to. Gotta get meat on it.
Damn it. I need to have the Charlie special.
For those listening, it is 9:05 in the morning. We started early. We started like 7:58 a.m.
Yes, we did.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's nice. I like the early morning vibes. It's
gonna wake me up for today.
Yeah, we're tapping into the dawn.
The dawn. For those listening, this is just how you always are. Like I have a much more alive voice, but you're always very.
I mostly
chill.
like this constantly.
It has nothing to do with the morning.
No, yeah, no.
Yeah, that was a really cool recording experience. And everybody, when people ask me for like, oh, show me something you've worked on or something you're proud of, I always show them that record.
Yeah,
and I show them I always show them like your 3 EP or 4 EP record discography. They're really great. They're all so different.
right. Yeah,
I love how they're all different.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of them. I don't know. You want to do something. Again, everybody can do whatever, but me personally, I want to do something different each time and record in a different way. And when you're gonna assemble songs for an album, okay, well then, like, what are we trying to do? Are you gonna try and like do something completely cohesive, or are you just gonna track stuff and like, here's a song, there's no connection? I don't know. With the one we did here, obviously the goal was to record live and to have it be like short, like on time. Like I think that's only like a 30-minute maybe EP. And have as much diversity as possible of the songs in there. So there's like a country jam, there's a song in Portuguese, there's a song in Spanish, there's a rock song, there's, it's just like, let's give them like 5 or 6 just like super random collections of Bora Bora, what it is. And
Colombian car chase. I'm not mad.
Not mad. Yes.
Oh yeah. What's the do you know which one? What's that one?
Is it? I don't know why people do anything that they do.
No, the other one. When you guys when you guys all come together.
Oh yeah. Tudo bem devagar.
There you go.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm bad with another language.
Sure.
I'm trying to figure out what you're saying.
Got you. Yeah, that was a fun one. That was random inspirato. I don't know. Yeah, that was sort of the goal. And then this last one we recorded live again because of our experience working with you. That was like, okay, that's the best way to like capture our sound.
Yeah. Live is where it's at.
Live is kind of where it's at.
It's always where it's at. I don't know if I ever want to record another way again after my experiences with doing live so much.
Yeah, I don't think so either. At least in a band context. If we can just lay it all down, it's a little faster and
it's
just
way faster.
It's just like, let's give it a couple takes and that's basically it. It's going to be as good
authentic.
as that. Yes.
It has a better glue.
Yes, it has a better glue.
It molds better. It forms better. It feels, and as the musician, for the rest of your life when you're done with it, you get to remember that moment. Like, yeah, we did that live. We did it live in a basement.
Right.
Ben was
in
Edibles with
the
us.
Cosmos.
Yeah, like that's why we're talking about it now is because it's that memorable. You don't remember
saved like organic matter essentially.
Yeah, it's a good experience.
So yeah, recording live is definitely great. If as long as you're mostly in time, then it's a pretty easy process.
You just go
of
into
editing.
it very well practiced, and that's all you can ask for. That's why I love doing the live sessions so much, because it's a small portion of that every time. And the bands come in well practiced. They do 2, 3, sometimes 4 songs. It's like a mini single EP, and there's video to it, but it's the same concept. They do it live. I treat it as such. I record it as such. That's why it sounds like an album recording. I try my best to keep it that way. And it's fun. It's been one of the most fun experiences of my life doing that. And I remember doing that with you guys. I think that was in November 2015. We did 3 songs, and it was so different back then, the sessions and the lighting and the cameras, but it was such a cool experience. I remember loving your band, and that's when I was like, oh, can you guys play the Winterfest? And you guys came and played that.
Oh my God, yeah.
That was fun.
That
It was so
super fun.
cool.
The garage. Yeah,
The garage.
it was so cool,
The
but it was so
hallway I
great.
built between the house. God, the things I used to do.
Dude.
What's wrong with me?
Well, what's going on with the current sessions that you're doing? Like, I remember earlier you guys were starting, and it was just like musicians were masked and kind of like isolated,
so
and you made
depressing.
it work. But now it seems things are more open.
Yeah, things were open. It completely shut down for 3-4 months. No one, which was very depressing. And then probably only got like 1 or 2 a month, fully masked. Weren't touching. I sanitized every microphone. It was just me down there. I learned how to do them alone. I used to do them with a bunch of people and then I bought the gimbals and the sliding cameras, and I learned how to just get levels and do all the audio production alone and all the editing alone. And that way I can minimize the interaction with people and touching and exposure. I wore a mask, and it was weird to like meet people and not touch them or shake their hands. And then usually when bands leave, after a couple hours together of experiencing that intimate thing, you end up hugging them goodbye.
Right, yeah.
And I lost that, which was weird. And then it had ebbs and flows. There was a little bit more. There's a bigger surge, or a feeling of a surge, in like September, October, when things felt like they were getting way better. But then we got hit with the second wave, and then the winter, and then it went down again. And then in March, April, when people started getting vaccinated, it started happening more often. Not nearly as often as it used to. It was 3, 4, 5 a week. But 1 a week or 1 every other week was more than none. And I feel like the biggest problem with it was not people getting vaccinated and feeling comfortable again. It's been a lack of money, because a lot of artists live lives and live in a world where they worked in that industry or in the service industry. So they could be a waiter, waitress, or an Uber driver, or a bartender a couple nights a week, and then being able to play music the rest of the week or have practice, which makes perfect sense if that's the world you're living in. So when you don't have those jobs, now it's like we have content. We've been working on music this whole year, but now we don't have the money to like pay to do stuff, promotion.
Sure.
So it's a weird place to be when you're. And I find myself trying my best to like, be wise of that and try to make sure I find a fair price that works for me and anybody, as much as I can. But it's really hard. That's another thing to realize when you like see a progress of what you're doing, and then it has to like dip back down for a year of no work and dip down for like, in order to get people back in, you have to start. Now you have to like think about what you charge when you record a record or mix something. It's like now you have to bring it back down just to get people back in again. So it's like another blow to progress, to your ego. But I don't see it that way anymore. I see it like, well, it's a win-win, because now people are coming back in for me to have work, and I'm helping them. Like now they still get to express themselves and put something out there. And if that means I have to have less money, I'm okay with that, because it makes me happy to work and to help people create stuff and be a part of that. So,
Well, I was going to ask you, for you personally, how has the last year affected your relationship to music and production and all your contributions to music?
A lot. The intimate evenings completely stopped. The sessions stopped. Recording bands stopped. I haven't mixed a record for a band up until last week for the first time in a year, which is crazy. I did some mastering, but not any mixing. No shows, no DZ Fest for 2 summers in a row now. no winter DZ Fest at my local high school I went to. I started doing that with them, which has been really cool. But that's going to happen again next fall, or next winter, I mean. So all that fell off, so I had to go inward and focus on stuff to keep me sharp and occupied, and that was playing in 3 bands. So playing in 3 bands, we were still able to practice. They're part of roommates, part of the bubble.
So you were playing more music, essentially.
Way more music. Yeah, we've come up with about 3 records in the last year. One might be an EP, but about 35 songs, and that's been great because it's been so long since I had that output because I was so busy with sessions. And with working and traveling for work and doing all that and teaching, and that's where this podcast and being in a band, the 2 things I really enjoy, talking, learning, expressing, and then creativity, really flourished a lot. And now that those have gotten like some groundwork, I can like keep going with that. But the sessions will come back, and they have been. There's been a little bit more work with that. Other interesting opportunities with it. And now like the concept of doing it in different cities, which I was explaining earlier to, in New York and Chicago, which still hasn't fully happened yet, but it's projected to happen. It's something that's a plan, and I'm very excited for that. It's a very heavy thing for me to wrap my head around, but I think it's going to be very beautiful. I'm super excited to see it because I just love music, people, and artists, and the world so much, and just seeing things and seeing how music is done in different locations. Kind of like how you felt learning another language. You have to go and immerse yourself in that. If you want to be a better audio engineer, musician, artist, and person, you have to do the same thing. And I'm throwing myself in there because I've never left this place. I've never left this house. I'm 31. This is my childhood home. Been here my whole life. My mom grew up here. My grandfather built this house. This room we're in here was where he wrote his sermons. He was a reverend.
Wow.
So this is a very interesting room for me. Because it's like, this is my way of writing a sermon, And yeah, so it's a very interesting trajectory, but
it created a deeper relationship for you personally to music than it sounds like.
It definitely
the
did.
Last year.
It did. I fell in love again with music heavily, especially in about the winter when we started sitting down, and I would just sit down every night and put on vinyl. And all my friends got into it, and everyone started bringing their vinyl here, and all the roommates started buying more. We upgraded some of the gear with a roommate that moved in, and we just would sit around every night, just listen to vinyl, and we started doing full sides, and then we started doing half side, or, one side. We started doing full records, then we started doing a side just to spice it up, and everyone would just line them up, and it was like a shuffle, like a playlist, but an analog one. And I learned so much about music. I got so far into R&B and hip-hop the last 6 months more than I have ever in my life. And that's mostly due to a friend, and then someone new in my life that she truly exposed me to music that I always knew was there. I had a relationship with it, but it was so superficial. And I was so naive of so much texture within it, and what it means, not just the lyrics and the words and how heavy and impactful and powerful they are, but the production and the style and the field recordings that go into it, and the sampling and the different textures with production and the different sampling, and even the combination of blues and R&B into hip hop. I love that soul R&B combo with, synthetic drums and an 808, and then these insanely powerful lyrics.
Right.
Like these lyrics in a different way, because I've always loved lyrics. I've always loved poetry and expression. But when you hear it from the pain and the core of people of any color, but more specifically Black people in America, it changed my life. Because I always knew it was there, and I listened to this type of style of music, but I never dove into it, and I never had someone who has such a wealth of knowledge of it really show me so much of it, the type of stuff that is on the surface, not the top 40 stuff, but the deep cuts from the 90s and 2000s, things that people have talked about, but it's overlooked. It wasn't as popular, but it resonates so much with me, and it gives me a different perspective on music.
Of course.
Yeah, I learned a lot the last 6 months, And yeah, I fell back in love with music in a way I never have before.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're in 3 bands?
Yeah.
Is Afterglow still a project?
It's still a project. We're just waiting for the ability to have Steven and Matt and Andre to come together so we can keep playing stuff like that.
I like that project a lot.
Yeah, me too. It meant a lot to me when you were listening to it and you sent me that text. You were like by a lake.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's fun, right?
Oh my God.
It's so much fun, like completely improvised and made up on the spot. Like we come in, I get levels, and the only thing I say or Steven says, like someone will just like play a note.
Mm-hmm.
He'll play like 2 chords and like that's where we start. And we just start. We have one initial pinpoint, like the Big Bang, and it just starts there, and then where it propagates is up to random occurrence of events. Yeah. And it's so much fun. It is one of the most therapeutic things. It is so stressful, especially when we've done it live, because we did it with Bora Bora at the Burlington. And then we've done it at DZ Fest. We've done a couple live stuff. We did an intimate evening here twice with it. And doing it in front of people while you're making up on the spot is the type of sensation I can't put words to. It's so terrifying, but it's so much fun. It pushes your creative limits. It pushes communication.
Right.
It's wonderful. It's crazy. And I feel like most of them turned out so well. I really enjoyed them. And there's moments where I'm like, this feels planned. It turned out so well.
I know. I'm always, when I saw you guys at Burlington and just other videos or just listening, it's like, wow, they're totally just, they're riffing. And but it seems like it's like organized improvisation.
Yeah.
But the music lends itself to that because it's like heavy. And it can get distorted and industrial, and then there's like these spaces of like just melodic tranquility and drum and bass, So I found that I felt like during like the Trump era, the music that like helped me like soothe through all the insanity was instrumental music. Because it didn't really, for me anyway, there wasn't really any voice or lyrics or song written that could really accurately express what I was like thinking or feeling about the world at the time. So the thing that did would just be instrumental music, because it's sometimes words aren't enough to describe insane things and situations. So instrumental music will lend itself to just kind of like soothing whatever the anxiety or the depression or the struggle is. So Afterglow's music, and I was listening to a lot of like New or Explosions in the Sky or something.
Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Right. And classical music. You
ever listen to Stockhausen?
I don't.
Check out Stockhausen.
I'll check out the Stockhausen.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy analog synthesizers from like the 50s and 60s. Most bizarre stuff. I learned about it at the Art Institute. I took a class called Analog Synthesis, which was one of the coolest classes ever. We got to use the EMU analog synthesizer. I think there's only 3 in the world. I think, I'm pretty sure Frank Zappa had one. There's one in a museum, I think, in Europe somewhere, and then the one at the Art Institute.
At the Art Institute.
And it was so cool.
Oh my God.
Wild class. But we listened to a lot of electronic composers. Daphne Oram, I believe it was her name, an English electronic composer from the 40s. This woman, so cool. And she would do analog with tape and old computers back then, and made crazy sounds and these experimental electronic sounds, and was a woman, was a pioneer in the field. And this is 40s, 50s, and I believe her name was Daphne Oram. And very cool. But anyway, Stockhausen.
I'm going to look that up.
Wild sounds.
For sure.
I've made many dogs bark and go nuts over this.
Over that?
Oh, yeah, it's wild stuff. You'll lose yourself a little bit in it.
Great.
Yeah, I loved it, though. But, I just love making... I realize I'm not a very traditional musician, and I really like making sounds and textures come together in ways you never would anticipate or expect. I like... I've said this before. I don't really want to play the guitar. I want to play the guitar. Like from the head through the machine heads,
Right.
through the bolts, to the nut,
Yeah.
to the wood, to the intonation of everything, to the frets, to the neck,
Yes.
to where it attaches, to the body, and the body get crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You mess with the tone knob, the pickup selectors, the switches, the bridge, hitting a string off the magnet on the pickup instead of playing it properly, using the tremolo arm to do things you shouldn't do, hitting the body, moving it around, bending everything,
Yeah.
twitching stuff, bending the strings in ways you're not supposed to, hitting every note, making songs in different keys because that way you can get different textures and different combinations. I love alternate tunings for that reason.
Yeah.
Everything I did with my old band was alternate tunings. I got obsessed with it, very much obsessed, annoyed most people. And I just couldn't help it because I wanted every note and every type of vibration that humans can hear to be heard.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't get that if you're just playing in C.
No.
And, that A sharp just gets neglected.
It does.
Poor guy. And yeah, so I love it's very visceral. I love playing it like for what it is. And I can't help it. I don't want to just sit there and know how to just play the perfect riff in the perfect key and be perfectly on time. I don't have any interest in that,
No. Yeah. But is that by design or that's just like what happens for you when you approach it?
It feels
the
natural to just do
intention,
that.
but it's like, it's
It
more.
feels natural. I can't help it. To the point where most people close to me or people who know me will say like, "Oh, it's clearly Ben playing," or "He's Wilshiring." Like that will be told. He's like, "Oh yeah, Ben's just Wilshiring." Any band I'm in, because it's like, yeah, that's the way he just plays that way. It's a very specific way, apparently. I don't know. You're just told that.
Sure,
That's what I'm
sure.
told.
Right.
But I'm not mad at it. It's just how I play. I like it. Yeah, it's a fun thing, playing music. I wish more people tried it, attempted it. Expression, it releases a type of pain
Yeah.
that I don't know what I would do with it if I didn't release it through the things I do.
Right. Yeah. I got into music late. I didn't learn the guitar until I was 20.
Oh, yeah, that is later.
So I guess I had wanted to learn, but I had like different ideas about myself or who I was as a person before that. Or like, oh, music isn't like for me.
Yeah.
And then
What changed that at 20?
Sort of not having much to do and being like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to learn because I've always wanted to do this, and now I feel like I'm ready to learn and be bad at something, and it doesn't matter because I gravitate towards it and I want to do it, so because it will give me joy. And that's
What about singing?
Singing came later. That was a couple years after, because just to learn the guitar and was one thing, and then to sing and play the guitar at the same time felt like something really hard to do. But then developing like your voice, what your voice is another extremely hard thing to do. I'm certainly not a trained singer by any stretch.
You're a good singer, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that compliment. I was not the case that I thought about. I truly just wasn't. I didn't like know what my voice was. So of course you're doing covers at first to practice singing, and it's like, okay, like I kind of get that because you know that song. There's like a blueprint to sing it. But then when it's like original music, it's like, what even is like my range? Like, how do I sing? Do I sing in my head or through my throat or my chest? Like, what is this? And that's a process of figuring out that can be sloppy and maybe not fun to be around for other people or yourself, really, especially when you're hearing yourself back those first times. But it just takes time. Again, there was for sure a lot of doubt in being able to do that. And then ultimately what won out was like, well, don't care. I still just want to do it and figure it out because it's for me. It's for me to learn like where it's at. It's giving me like all this information and insight into who I am and how I can express myself and what ways work for me, and listening to other music and other singers, how they approach it, and what I like, what resonates with me. Again, a technical singer, like an American Idol singer, really doesn't do anything for me emotionally at all.
Yeah.
If I can just hear somebody singing from the heart, even if they're hitting bad notes here and there, like for me, that like it's just like, okay, I'm feeling that on an emotional heart level for sure.
It becomes it's a preference.
It's just a preference, and if you're gonna do it yourself, it's not always a natural thing to do, but you figure it out where your kind of sweet spot is, what your range is, how to hit certain notes, from where in your body to sing it, and as long as it's giving you joy, and for you, who really cares what anybody else thinks. I was watching a talent show video from 1990 the other week.
You?
No.
Oh, okay.
That would have been fun, though. But it was like my sister's high school thing, and one of her friends was playing, and they did White Rabbit, and she did the line "Feed Your Head," like the last line, and she kind of janked the last note. And she was like, "Oh, I remember her being like so upset about that for like weeks, that she like janked the last note on that." But I was like, that was my favorite part of the song.
Yeah.
I love it when people like make a mistake or forget a lyric or like
You're
a bad note.
being.
You're human, and like
no one's perfect.
you did a thing for all of us to see that was like, sure, it was a mistake, but it was like, oh, it was very created so much gravity to the whole moment itself of connection. We all can all relate to making a mistake.
Yeah. It makes you, it humanizes you, and it humbles you. As the performer, it humbles you. It might create a form of a spiraling anxiety. But what that does is it improves. It helps you to get better at what you're doing. To, if that's a mistake, if you perceive it as one, to not make that anymore, or to at least work at it.
Right.
That's how you get better. You have to suck.
You do. You do have to suck.
I suck at so
true.
many things, and I still suck at stuff, and I do it anyway.
Exactly.
You know, I don't know, like, how else do you get better? Like I mentioned before we started doing podcasts and talking and finding a way to just talk to people for hours. It's like, this isn't my first rodeo. Like, I have been talking to people I don't know and do know for half my life in long form. You know, since I was a kid, it's been something I'm really into. It's long conversations. I'm curious. I like to learn. So, but you get better at it. You get better at listening. I was thinking about this on my walk yesterday, and it made a lot of sense to me. And listening is the most valuable education. And I think that means not just going through school and paying attention to what the teacher, instructor, professor is telling you, or what your parents are telling you, but what the whole world's telling you, from nature to a song, to a friend, to food. Like, listen to it. You can learn something from it, and there is no price to it. It is the most valuable education because it's free. You just have to put in the effort. It takes time, takes skill, takes honing in on listening, not just hearing something, but really listening to it. And that's why I say I fell back in love with music, because I listened to it so intensely for so long that I just started going into that avenue of hearing it. And now I'm listening again.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I feel the same way about people. I've grown closer with friends, and then just, you know, a new person in my life, just really listening all the time to them, to everything they say, with intention, no malice intent, no hidden, you know, secrets or no hidden agenda, but for the better good of them and for you and for your own intimate relationship, to just listen and be present and like, take in consideration everything they say and do.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're there, and it helps be a better person.
Yeah, and when somebody reciprocates that and you feel listened to as well, that's the best.
Yeah. And when you do it a lot and you notice they're not, but you know them because you've had that type of relationship, you realize, oh, there's something, it's not you personally, it's like something's going on in their life.
Right.
So it helped, because you got so good at listening to people, you can see like you start to not take things personally. You realize they're going through a bad spot.
Sure.
Something's wrong. And that's why they're not present.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I've learned from friends. That's why your mom, it's usually a mom, but dads can do it too, but moms have this ability where there's like, what's wrong?
Right.
They
yeah.
just know.
They can
What's
intuit.
wrong? What's wrong with you? It's because they've been listening to you for 20, 30, 40 years.
Right.
They know everything about you, and you didn't even have to tell them. And that comes with the skill of being present, listening, paying attention, hearing someone out. You can see through all the nonsense, the facade, the ego, you can read right through it. It's very transparent.
And you can listen to yourself. You can listen to the voice in your mind, the one that is, because there's can be lots of voices in our head that are negative or not us or something else or an old idea that was given to us from inherited generationally that is negative, and but there is like a true voice that's like clear, that is you, and is kind of guiding you along and making the right choices. So if you're really tuning into nature, people you love, listening to music on a more just like intimate and natural level, then you can hear yourself too and feel confident and better about your choices and where you're going. I felt that as well.
Yeah, it's a daunting task. It takes humbling yourself to be within your mind when someone's there and to truly suppress that ego and you're wanting to correct somebody or jump into the conversation or wait for your time to speak. You should give up all of that and release it to the person.
Yeah.
And it'll bring you a type of peace and joy and camaraderie that is kind of impossible to explain unless you experience it. It really makes you feel like a human, like a person.
Yeah.
Instead of an object, instead of making them feel like an object. A lot of people face that. It's what I've been learning is the biggest problem with what I could see as a man with sexism is making women not just feel like an object because of sex, but because we haven't listened to them about a lot of things. So just shutting up and lending your mind, your ear, and your eyes to someone to speak. And I don't mean eyes in a physical way. I mean eyes into like you're looking, because it's helpful to look at someone when they're speaking. So really take it in is the most important thing, because they're humans just like you. There's very little difference, and the difference is just sex organs.
A chromosome.
A chromosome. It's very simple. And even that is a wide variety of variables. But yeah, it's something I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot this last year. I mean, I've never really had a true issue with it. I've just gone deeper with it.
Sure. And you wouldn't have had this insight had this calamity not happened, and you'd be able to find your way out of it.
Yeah. Exactly. And
do you ever think about where things might be had COVID not happened?
It's terrifying. My life has literally changed like 180 degrees.
You look different.
Thanks.
You look amazing, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But yeah, you look extremely healthy. Not that you didn't look healthy before, of course, but it's just like you have all this like vitality.
I went inward and outward to the highest degree the last year. I walk 5+ miles every day. I hike in the forest. So that's a whole psychological thing.
Of course.
I get to vent inward. If I have a friend with me, we just talk the whole time. It's private. So it's a lot of venting. Nature, seeing the world. I have a different relationship with light, time, and the elements now, because I walk through everything. I walked through the polar vortex, the snow, the rain. I haven't taken a day off regardless of weather. It doesn't matter. And now I have a different appreciation for it. I have a different appreciation for why it's necessary for this planet. A lot of people in the Chicagoland area hide in the winter. They stay in.
Right.
They just drink and don't go anywhere.
Exactly.
And I just did the opposite of it. I would take months off of not drinking. I'd be very intentional with my drug consumption, with mushrooms, with marijuana. And I started working out every day, just in-house, just push-ups, pull-ups, chin-ups, sit-ups, planks, the bar on the door, just every day, every day, no matter what, at certain time intervals, just to have a balance. Because when you lose everything, as far as work, I got out of a relationship that was really hard. I mean, that was probably the biggest thing. It was really hard.
That was mid-pandemic?
It was August, yeah.
Of 2020?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ugh. That was a really rough one. But that one really pushed me.
But it pushed you to new levels, did it not?
Pushed me to a level. It pushed me. I was already getting really into walking and paying more attention to my diet, which has been a huge thing too. It was a massive diet change, mostly vegan. I had meat once a week.
Did you make that change prior to the relationship ending or immediately after?
I started just being more healthy with food and intermittent fasting.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started eating I still had meat every day, but it would just be for like dinner.
Right.
And then I met someone new in March, and she's pretty much vegan. And we had a lot of awesome dinners together. Made a lot of cool meals. And it wasn't hard for me to finally like learn and realize quickly through that person and through those experiences that you don't need meat for every meal. And meat, I like meat.
You still eat meat?
I do probably once a week. I haven't had it since Sunday. It's Friday. So once a week, twice a week, maybe. But
just so you don't get like super sick if you have to eat meat or something, or just because you crave it and you're like, I'm going to eat meat.
I like it. I'm not fully against it. I don't like how it's obtained.
Right.
I don't agree with the inhumane ways it's done at all. So I just want to have my footprint be very little. But I used to have it for every meal. I mean, 15, 16 times a week. It was meat. Some type of meat was involved. That's how I was raised. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
That's what you have for
Midwest
dinner.
diet.
Yeah. And then I started slowly taking out. Now I don't have it for breakfast. Then now I only have it a couple times a week for dinner. Now if I eat it, it's, wild Alaskan salmon. Or if I'm going to buy it, because I don't eat it that often, I'll buy like a really nice steak.
Sure.
Something that is grass-fed and free range and a prime rib or something. And it's still, even then, it's still rare. That's like once a month, And I kind of like it that way. It gives me something to look forward to. It helps me to understand, to appreciate these things much more. The process of getting meat has never been easy for humans, and it helped me to appreciate that. And also be less involved in that process. And then learning new ways of having a diet where you have to figure out how to get protein that isn't meat-based,
Sure.
So that's been fascinating.
And you did all this through a breakup?
Yeah.
And changed and made all these incredible health changes through the breakup?
Yeah.
Because
I lost 35 pounds.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Because what was part of that just like the heartache and not being able to eat?
No.
That was fine.
It was not that. It was knowing that with COVID and everything in life changing, and then that complete life change of a really serious breakup, and my age being 30, 31, experienced so much in life now, I realized like there's things you have to do. You have to take control of your life. And I could spiral out and drink every day and gain weight and eat
It completely
fast food.
could have gone the other way.
I went the opposite way because I saw the writing on the wall, and I learned from people. Just talking to people, learning like every single thing someone did right during a hard time in their life or a breakup. I did that, and every single thing they did wrong.
You were conscious of that?
Very much so. And the only way to really do that is to not be unconscious. So first of all, take out alcohol. The first place I wanted to go was just to drink.
Of course.
And then I was just like, nah, don't drink. And I did 3 months of no drinking in different, like 1 month here. I would just do, all right, no November. No, just because. Just focus on myself, because if it's getting dark, it's going to get cold. I forced myself to wake up early every day. I was never waking up early. I was early bird when I was a kid, and then teenage college years hit, and you stay up all night.
Right.
Now I go to bed at 11, midnight, wake up at 6:30, 7 every day, 7 days a week. I don't sleep in ever. To keep that circadian rhythm, it keeps me feeling good and healthy on top of things, productive, clear-headed. it's just like a weird balance, and it becomes obsessive. So you have to find different ways to do things, and I like mixing up the day and doing different things. But yeah, it was a complete change. And then meeting someone new helped a lot because they had very similar lifestyles, trying to be healthy. They ate really well. They eat really well. They work out too. So like all that helps a lot to like I feel motivated and connected to do the same thing that I was doing already, but now it feels better. It's like it's like heightened
support.
Yeah, support's there. And then my friends doing it too. A lot of them changed their diets. There's way less fast food and pizza coming into the house than there used to be. There was a pizza on the counter every day of the week before. And everyone's working out. My best friend's going to run the Chicago Marathon. Like, everyone's gotten better. Most of my friends have quit smoking cigarettes. It's like, it's a completely different change, yeah. But for me, I went crazy in the right direction, I think.
Dude, yes.
And
so empowering.
It was difficult, and it still is, but once you get to where you want to be, you become very flexible with it. And
well, you feel better inside of your body and in your mind.
Better. Yeah, I feel very clean all the time.
It's interesting. Like, so you made these changes summer last year.
Yeah,
mostly.
I started walking and eating better last May.
Okay, so here we are now in July 2021. Like, just over a year. You know, I guess when you're looking down at it, like, oh man, like here's just this intense change. This pandemic. My relationship's ending. I have to like start different stuff. Like, it might seem like a daunting task to look forward to, but now here you are. It was only a year, and look at where you are on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's remarkable. It's changed my life. And I feel like it's helped other people, and I know that it has because people have asked. Enough people have asked. But yeah, I never want to go back to it again. I want to stay at this weight for forever and keep simple working out. I work like 20 minutes a day, and I walk for like an hour and 20. So it's like an hour and 40 minutes of a form of exercise. But
it's really it.
How often do you sit around watching Hulu or Netflix or Apple TV?
You know, I never.
Or sports. No, I'm saying like people do that.
Oh yeah.
And because a lot of people will have the excuse like I don't have time for it.
I don't have time for it, or
it's like you have a lot more time than you think. I've met 2 to 3 people in my life that are so busy they truly do have a hard time with it. But the other thousands, tens of thousands, no. There's time. There's always time. Instead of that, you can listen to a podcast or music. You like listening to music? Go on a walk and listen to music.
Right.
You like listening to a podcast? Go on a walk and listen to a podcast. Yeah, that's another thing I deliberately did, which was so hard to do because I love TV shows and movies. Love them. Obsessed. I got rid of all my subscriptions and just stopped watching stuff.
Yeah, I've been the same too, and I got into watching movies sort of again later into COVID, like stuff that I should have seen that, but for the most part, like movies, watching like film or TV is an investment of time, you know, that like throughout the day, like I just don't really want to invest 30 minutes or an hour and a half or 2 hours sitting and staring at something.
Have intention behind it.
Right.
Like last night, I did a lot of stuff yesterday, and I was finally done with work and life by like 8 and took a shower, and I put on Rick and Morty, and I watched 2 episodes. And I was laughing, I was cracking up, and then I got ready and went to bed.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It was
that perfect window.
Yeah,
where you
it was
could,
like
take
and
it
I
in.
never do that. That's like once a week. And I love the intention of watching something for a reason. Like when you're on a date, like we made dinner, let's put on, you know, a movie. Like the last movie I watched on a date was Sound of Metal, I believe.
Oh God, yes.
God, that was heavy.
So heavy.
That made me really sad. And but yeah, like having a reason behind it. Like let's sit and let's have some wine and watch this together and like learn something from, talk about it, take something away from it. but not like, what do you want to do tonight? Let's just watch this.
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
just keep
yeah.
watching it. Let's keep watching another thing. Just keep going and keep going. It's like,
yeah, that's bad.
it's bad.
That's
And
a
I've
bad
done
cycle.
it. I
I've
did
done
that
it.
for
Fucking done that too.
We all have. Everyone has. That's the thing. It's like, these are never guilt trips. I'm not higher than anybody else. I'm not on a high horse. I'm
just a realization.
I'm saying it from experience.
Yeah.
Like, I've been 215 pounds. I ate.
Wow, I didn't know you were
That
that
was
big.
the biggest I ever got.
Damn.
Yeah, so 45 pounds in all I've lost. But yeah, just watching movies late at night, getting pizza, like all these weird habits. I've done it all, so I have no guilt saying it or telling people, like, don't do that. It's not like I'm saying it from a place where I'm just being better than you. I've never done it. It's like,
Right.
no, I've done it.
I've done it, and I've
I
been down that
suffered.
road.
I had to
and-
roll out of bed. I remember what it was like to roll out of bed.
like,
Now I
literally
hop up.
roll.
Yeah, literally roll. Now I hop up and do 30 push-ups instantly. It's like, it's
Yeah.
super easy now. I feel like a kid again. But no, it comes from a place of walking upstairs and being out of breath.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
it doesn't happen anymore. But I do know what that feels like.
Of
And
course.
It's a hard place to be.
It's
I
a really
relate.
tough place to
It
be, man.
sucks. It sucks a lot. I encourage anybody who has any type of weight issue, low or high,
Mm-hmm.
being too thin or too big, to find that middle ground, to work at it and take your time. Like, I've been going as hard as I could for 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time.
It
So
does
with
take
small
time.
increments. Take your time.
Over time.
And I tried so many different diets and different foods, and now I've learned, like, plant-based with clean eating, no sugar has been like the best thing.
Oh my God.
The best thing ever.
Sugar really is
Oh,
kind
no
of
sugar.
the thing that,
It's gone.
yeah, if you can eliminate that, holy shit, you'll
Yeah.
probably add like 10 years to your life.
50
It
years.
really is like a fix, though.
It's bad.
It's
I mean-
totally heroin.
Oh, diabetes is prevalent in my family.
Oh, yeah, so
All
you
my
have to be even
grandparents
more
had
vigilant.
it. Parents too. I took that 23andMe with the extra part of it where they tell you your health,
Mm-hmm.
and I have like a 38% chance, or more likely chance, of getting diabetes than the average person.
Wow.
So that, coupled with my family already having it, I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not having diabetes.
No.
The best I can avoid it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, any of it. It comes with so many problems. It affects your whole life.
Everything.
It's
yeah.
a terrible thing. Heart disease too. My grandfather had a lot of heart attacks.
Yeah.
Alcoholism. My other grandfather was an alcoholic. That's what did him in. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have control of all of that, because life's hard.
Life's hard as it is.
I'm sad all the time, but I also enjoy a lot of things. And I want to be 100. Now,
Yeah, me too.
But like, you don't have
Down
to be
to
in
be old.
pain getting
No,
to
you
it.
don't.
You can have longevity getting to that place.
Yeah, the goal is to be able to walk for as long as I can. It's
My
kind of like a
neighbor
dog
was 90
Yeah.
doing her lawn,
doing her walks,
doing her
and
own
lawn.
thing outside. 90 years old. Wore a big hat, covered up in the summer,
Mm-hmm.
but she was out there.
Yeah,
90 years old, and she told me she never ate out before. No fast food. She's never hasn't been to a restaurant in 50 years or never has,
Mm-hmm.
and just stays in, eats clean, outside every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day from when the weather's nice, April to October, outside every day.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see her every day in the garden or by the flowers, just doing little things, just
Right,
something,
yeah,
a
yeah.
task. And it worked. I mean, I know 55-year-olds that can't do that.
Oh, for sure.
You know, I know people younger that can't do that.
Oh, definitely.
So it's I want to travel the world and record bands around the world and
Mm-hmm.
do podcasts around the world and play music with people, and you can't do that if you're in bad shape.
You're in bad shape, and it's a lifetime project and pursuit. So you have to be ready for that journey, what that's going to require of you
Mm-hmm.
physically.
Man, you look thin. What are you doing over there?
I'm actually in the best shape of my life
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
It's
I was gonna
interesting to like think, because I'm 40 now, and
Over.
I know,
When did
right?
you turn 40?
I turned 40 April 29th.
Wow.
So
You look good for 40.
thank you.
You look like you're 35.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It's like people are living longer. The whole people aren't getting married at 22 and like having kids and settling down, buying a house. Like the economy's different, society's different. It's just expectations are different. The world's overpopulated,
Women
on
have
fire.
careers
Women
and-
have careers and independence and can do things. So
Absolutely.
that's like, it's great. I think it's good for everybody. And
It is. Absolutely.
it allows time to just figure more out. But I was like, I'm I'm like in way better shape than I was when I was like 18 or like 20 something,
feel the
you
same
know?
way.
Like it's a crazy.
It's weird, right? You almost feel like you're back then again, but smarter,
Yeah.
bigger, wiser. It's
Right.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah. It is a weird thing. I think during COVID, I just ran a bunch and I was doing Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu before. And I just do like a home routine, like really intensely of like those exercises. And
That's cool.
um,
Do you fight or you just do the practicing of it?
well, now that things are opening up, I'm back in LA. I'm going back to a gym, and I met this Spanish, like former military Spanish dude who like will do private sometimes, and he'll beat me up for like an hour or whatever.
What do you get from that?
That's a good question. Well, it's kind of like dealing with the anxiety sort of thing. I mean, with COVID, I wanted to, there was just a lot of time and gyms were closed and there wasn't a lot to do. And so I could hike, but I also wanted to get to a point of like exhaustion for my anxiety and to not be in my head so much. And then with jujitsu, I've always been interested in martial arts. I've always like wanted and gravitated. Well, I haven't really done them. I did like Taekwondo when I was a kid, but like now because it makes sense, but I'm like, oh, I love like cultures. I love languages, and like martial arts are like an art form around the world. You have these different countries that have these different forms of self-defense. And jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, obviously there's like the Brazilian element too. And it's just helps me be so much more in touch with my body in a different way. It's incredible exercise. There really isn't any cardiovascular substitute or equivalent for like fighting a human being. It's bursts of just like in intensity that is exhausting, but like you get better at it. And with a martial art, jiu-jitsu, for example, it's like learning any skill that we discussed earlier experientially, and like there's muscle memory and there's things you recognize beforehand that you can learn, and it's just a process of getting better. It's doing something new. So as like a white belt, you're just like a rookie and you're getting beat up and you're making mistakes, and like, are you going to stick with it or not? Why are you doing it? Are you doing it for like yourself or your self-preservation, or are you doing it because like, oh, I think that's cool, I want to be like a badass black belt or something? It's like,
Which takes so long.
Which takes like 10 years at least.
If you're very, very vigilant.
If you're doing it like 4 or 5 times a week and like don't suffer an injury, or like life doesn't come up and you have like another obligation that's just like, hey, I can't do that often, So
have you ever been injured?
Doing jiu-jitsu? I have a slight injury right now to my groin, but like I'll be being here. I've been here in Chicago for a month, so I'll be fine when I go back. But yeah, you have to upkeep your body, and I climb too, so I find that the jiu-jitsu helps my climbing and center of gravity.
Rocks.
Yeah. And I also feel like everything I do relates ultimately back to music. Because I feel like if I'm like learning something new, like I apply it to musical expression in some way. It's helping me in that area. It's helping me just be more open to experience and expression, and allowing like those pathways and those gateways to be open. So if it's like, I got into playing chess too. So
nice. We should play chess sometime.
Oh yeah, you're a chess player?
Obsessed.
Okay.
I never have anybody to play with.
Okay.
I ask people and they're like, no. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it's great. It's such a fix, and I have a moment or two of brilliance. I'm like, oh, nice.
You just started recently?
No, I played a couple years ago, but only within the last like 8 months has it been, and I was like, no, I'm gonna play every day, and I'm gonna like watch videos, and I'm gonna think about strategy.
When did you learn?
I learned when I was a kid, like how to play, like the rules essentially, but I didn't like get into it. And it's I just love what it does for my brain, creating the plasticity and thinking about things, analysis, thinking ahead,
Thinking far
ahead as much as you can. And then
mapping out like 20 scenarios at once.
right.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing to do for your brain as you apply it to anything in life. And that's the same for climbing, thinking about like a route and where you'll be later down the road, what you want to do there, or jujitsu, like reading somebody's intention and then doing something else, or music, listening to everybody and thinking about maybe where we're going to be ending up in this song. It's all universal and applicable. So I think that's why I do it. It ultimately like goes back to expressing myself as best as I can as an artist or a musician. I love those individual pursuits and like what they do for me, but like being in nature for sure is certainly inspirational. It's inspiration, right? It's like the feeling of something greater than myself. The feelings of fear, feelings of accomplishment, feelings of maybe doing something you didn't see yourself doing beforehand or a few years ago, and seeing the progression and the improvement, and then applying it back to, okay, how can I take all those same lessons I learned and apply it to this art form? Maybe I want to get into something else. Everything does kind of go hand in hand. Everything is everything.
Yeah. When you put effort and practice into one thing, you see how it attaches to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Chess will help you map out other things in life. It helps me think 20 steps ahead when I'm like, how do I do this, and that? How do I plan out all these events at once? Mm-hmm. Life is chess, and it is a musical endeavor. It's the same thing with writing a song. How do I put all these things together?
Right.
You get better at it. And same thing, I'm sure, with jiu-jitsu and Brazilian and all different types of martial arts. Mm-hmm. It's a strategy. You see points. You have to map it out. You have to figure out how to get from here to here. There's a lot of creativity, but also physical endurance to it. It's very interesting. The more you do that, the better you get at it. And it manifests and it gets applied to everything in life.
Yeah, I mean, ideally so. Hopefully, you're taking those lessons, and
if you're wise about it.
If you're wise about it and you approach everything the same way, then if you're getting like positive results or gradual progress, then it'll be the same in anything you do. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone like can't learn anything. I think as long as like your intentions are good and you're willing to make mistakes and fail and listen to somebody else who knows more and just apply yourself, and you can do whatever the fuck. It really doesn't matter.
I agree.
There's no limitation. I
agree. It's the biggest problem with racism and sexism in workplaces and fields. It's just thinking like, well, that's a woman or that's a black person. They can't do that. It's like, where did that even come from?
Just like, old.
No, but like, what are you talking about? Like, says who?
Right.
I know so many different people that are so competent and more intelligent than I am, and you start to realize that it is such a fallacy. It's a farce.
We put people in boxes. Mm-hmm. People put us in boxes to make themselves feel more comfortable. We're on the receiving end of people's projections all the time. And
wearing glasses. Having a haircut.
Yes, exactly.
Having a beard.
Right.
Wearing patterns on your shirt. Having a tattoo.
People are making assumptions about your character and who you are as a person all the time.
I personally love it. I feed into it. And that is a luxury I have of being more of a white man, is I get to just do whatever I want. And with that, I try to do what I can and whatever I want to help others, because I'm fully aware of that.
Using your privilege to help others.
Always.
Yeah.
Like, what else am I here for? Like, right. So I can rise up and everyone else can fall? Like, what? That's dark. That's sadistic. That's narcissistic, and it's not right. It just isn't right, and then you see that a lot with people with money and power, and a lot of them are white men, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
You don't need $1 billion.
Our system
You just
does not work,
You know?
unfortunately. No,
Like, you don't even need millions of dollars.
you don't.
You really don't. I've been living off hay for a while. It's like you don't need.
You have happiness.
Oh my God. I have
fulfillment in
so
other
much.
areas.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the more you experience life and the struggles, and you sleep on the couches and you barely get by, the more you realize that there's a certain point where money's necessary to get through,
Sure.
but at a certain point it becomes a burden,
Right.
it becomes a problem.
Oh yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it helps, but yeah, it doesn't fix like core stuff.
No, core
About
stuff
who you are.
is there's no dollar sign to that. That you have to, and that's what another thing I learned. Like, eating healthy is not as expensive as people think it is.
Right.
Eating the best versions of everything is. If you want to have the best steak, that's expensive. But if you want to have some spinach and a carrot and an onion and a tomato, it is not expensive.
No.
Vegetables are the cheapest thing to eat. They're so cheap, and they're everywhere. It's the misconception of that. You know how cheap it is to make your own bread? It's a joke. It's
Right.
like some yeast, flour. You don't even need any sugar, actually. You use a little bit of honey, and honey's natural. Sugar's not. And some salt, like Himalayan pink. Like, it's so, and water, like a couple bucks.
We were
and you could
talking
make
about bread
forever,
baking last night, actually, at
Really?
rehearsal, and Glenn has had the same like thing of yeast or whatever for the last like 10 years, I guess.
His own. What do they call that? Starter
Yes.
for sourdough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's so much. What it is it's time and education. Mm-hmm. It takes time and education to do that, and yeah, it's not that expensive. My grocery list has dropped tremendously in price, and it's just from educating yourself, realizing what you need and what you don't need. You know, like nuts are more expensive, but you don't need as much as them to get full or fulfilled. And they're just a $7 bag of pistachios is just as expensive as 3 bags of Doritos. Mm-hmm. And guess who comes home with 3 bags of Doritos? A lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's the same price, but one is significantly healthier for you and will be just as fulfilling, if not more.
Right.
It's just that sugar rush, that
It's
fix,
the rush,
the sodium sugar
and then
rush.
the crash.
Oh my God, the crash.
Crash is so
And people
hard.
love sleeping.
It's true.
And they're like, I'm supposed to go.
I'm done. I'm going to go to bed now after eating that.
And I love that stuff. But man, when you don't have it for a while and you eat it, you're like, you feel terrible. I feel like there's a wood splitter, like chipper in my gut when I eat. Like, I'll have one of those Saturday nights where you just get a little drunk, a little high, and you're like, no, I'll let loose tonight.
Yeah, right.
You'll eat all the okie dokie popcorn, the Doritos, the Sour Patch, and you're like, what is going on inside of me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I used to do this every day.
To my God.
Admittedly, I used to do that all the time. And
Wow.
now I'm just like, what
Yeah.
is happening?
It's a choice. It's a conscious choice you're making. It's awesome.
It just sucks, though. You go into the store and it's just littered with all this stuff right when you walk in. And guess what's there when you check out? The same crap.
Right.
And man, those candy companies, they're so smart with their advertising. They didn't make their price more. They just made the bars smaller. It's bastards. That cookies and cream Hershey's is like 30% smaller now than it was when I was a kid, but it's still like $1.
I know.
$1.19. You're like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Where's my return on investment?
It's hard. It's dark. I can't believe that those companies are allowed to do that. It's so sadistic. And it plays on those kids and parents. I don't know. It's just simple. It takes so long to learn nutrition. It's a whole nother thing. It takes forever. There's so many things going on. It's complicated. It really is. Vitamins, minerals, fiber, what the difference is between the fats, proteins, carbohydrates. These are all very complicated things. And it's chemistry, and it's what you're comprised of, and it's really daunting.
Right.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
in this country too, we don't really prioritize it as much as a culture.
Not at all.
And then with and then just fast food's cheap and it's
But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah.
It's cheap, but that value meal or whatever you call it at McDonald's. I don't even know what you call it. But say you get like a Big Mac, a sack of fries, and a soda. It's got to be like what, $7, $8, $9.
Mm-hmm.
I make salads for $5. They're cheaper
Right.
and just as filling and so much better for you.
But then you get it like it's just like there though, and you get that rush.
I know,
that
it's
high
crazy. You see 20 cars in line when you're
Dude,
driving past.
it's
I'm like, what are they
insane.
doing?
I know.
Oh my God, that's insane that people do that to themselves. And they wait. It's not even that fast. You're waiting for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's intense, but like,
I grew up, I could say this to people. I grew up doing that.
right.
Like, I know what that is. I grew up in America too, in a low income house, like where you work paycheck to paycheck and you eat what you can. And it's about carbs, and low quality meat. And that's all it's about. And fat was the arch nemesis. It was the bad thing. And now you're like, wait, fat? Everyone needs fat. More specifically, to stop body shaming people, women need more fat than men. And they have a higher body fat percentage naturally for giving birth. It's safe, and also for their breast. It's what is natural. It's what you need. So fat is actually very important. The trifecta of fat, protein, and carbohydrate is a very important balance. You know?
For sure.
They're all very important. The problem is the carb thing is the carbs we've been taking in are so bad.
Right.
You get carbs from vegetables and fruits. Those are fine. And you get them from other things, but the carbs from the white bread, the carbs from the Sour Patch Kids, like that's the wrong carb. That's not what you want.
Bad carb.
Bad carb. Bad carb. There's a huge bag of Sour Patch Kids and worms in my counter. I love it. I don't eat them, and I keep ignoring them.
I know. Yeah.
They've been there for like a week.
They have no power over you.
No, I just walk past them and I look. I get really close to it and I just stare at them.
You stare at the kids.
I stare at the Sour Patch Kids. I love the torture. It's the only time it becomes unbearable is if you drink.
True.
When I drink, all things go down.
Yeah,
I have a friend who's sober, and I always tell him before I drink, like, don't let me. Like, stop me. And I'll drink a bottle of wine and be like, dude, let's get pizza.
Lock me in the room.
He looks at me, he's like, don't do it, Mike. I wake up the next day, I'm like, thank you so much.
Thank you for stopping me.
See, I'm weak too. You have to admit when you're weak, and I'm weak too. Foot asleep.
My hamstring got a little tweaked.
Oh no.
I'm just checking the time here.
What time do you have to leave?
Like let me just message my boss.
What time do you have to leave?
Like, I'm gonna tell her I'm gonna be in at 10:45, 8:45 LA time. So it's 10:11 now.
You have to be back.
I just have to turn on my computer here at your house and begin work, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna go for a walk, but you could do whatever you need to.
Oh, wonderful. I was like 10:45, and I'm like, oh wait, you're in California. 8:45, your time. Don't worry.
So you have 30
minutes. 30 something minutes.
Do you want to play a song?
Sure, I can play a song.
Can you play a song speaking a language that isn't English?
Yes. I can do one in Spanish.
Whatever you want.
Okay. Well, I can leave these on.
Yeah, just leave them on. Ooh, I have a good idea.
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh.
Hold on. That's for you. That's for you.
All right. This is, you've heard this one before, but this is a ukulele version of it. It's La Busqueda. Veo los colores contra el cielo y me pregunto qué saben los dioses. La búsqueda de la verdad puede durar una eternidad, años y pase el tiempo y más, hasta que llegan a un estado de paz. Si tú no crees en ti mismo, entonces todos hagan lo mismo. Solo podemos determinar la realidad en la tierra. Mira las olas tan poderosas y antiguas. El viento es el mismo que el aire. Yo respiro. La búsqueda de la verdad puede durar una eternidad, años y pase el tiempo y más, hasta que llegan a un estado de paz. Si tú no crees en ti mismo, entonces todos hagan lo mismo. Solo podemos determinar la realidad en la tierra. ¿Qué significa todo en este mundo? Y yo no sé. Pero yo solo quiero existir como las mariposas y las abejas que andan en la primavera tan tranquilo. El camino es muy largo. Yo voy directo, todo derecho, donde sea, se quiera mi destino. La búsqueda de la verdad puede durar una eternidad, años y pase el tiempo y más, hasta que llegan a un estado de paz. Si tú no crees en ti mismo, entonces todos hagan lo mismo. Solo podemos determinar la realidad en la tierra. There's that one.
Wow. That was really special. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
That made me tear up a little bit.
Oh, well, I'm glad I made you tear up.
Made me think of the ones I love.
Yeah, it makes me think of the ones I love too. I think every song I write, I want it to be as like universally interpreted as much as humanly fucking possible.
Mm-hmm.
For me too,
Mm-hmm.
because life changes and we have different priorities, or we have different things happen, different people coming in and out of our life. And so if I'm going to write a song or something, it's nice to be able to go, that's an older song. That song is like, I don't know how old.
7 years old?
7 years, 8 years old at least. But it's still like applies to my psychology and my life and my perspectives. When I sing it and I think about the words and what it means, it's applicable to what's gone on in my life in the last year, in the world, and it's nice. Because there are some songs for sure, like if you come back and revisit it or you play it again, you don't feel that way anymore. You're just like, I was sort of a different person when I wrote. I don't like feel that way about that song. That can happen sometimes, but for the most part, I don't know. When I'm trying to write something, I want it to be, regardless of your gender or where you come from or what language you speak, it's applicable to you in any way that you want. I don't know. Certain songs, of course, have meaning or might be written about like a particular experience or a person, but I would never like lend itself to be so specific. It should be broad to the listener.
Yeah. Well, that one feels that way. That one's always been one of my favorite ones by you. It's so soothing. It's such a soothing song. I mean, I think of all the full band version that I know of that one. But yeah, every time you've played that one with the band or when I've listened to it, I've always enjoyed it the most out of probably my favorite one by you. So I'm glad you picked that one.
Yeah. I'm glad. Did you understand the lyrics?
I mean, not for that
You're
one. I wasn't really
words?
kind of, but I wasn't really listening for that. I was just like listening to the sound.
The sound and the emotion,
And
right?
especially like this close with these headphones on. Like for those listening or watching, like I just had two nice microphones on you intimately, and I'm like, it's like hyper sonic in my head, and I'm right in front of you. And I just kept my eyes closed the whole time to just kind of hear it. It sounded good.
Yeah, that's the whole point, right? I don't know. It should be. It shouldn't matter what I'm really saying.
No,
it shouldn't matter anything. It's like, does the melody speak to you? Does like the energy and the tone of the song resonate with who you are or where you're at? The rhythm, the pattern,
the chords. I really like the chords. The chords, the finger picking. It's nice.
That's really it. That's ultimately what matters. You know, again, this is much as my like opinion or perspective. What matters to me, but like. Yeah, if something, that's why with singing, it was always like starting off, it was intense because I would listen back and I would be like, oh my gosh, I like the music I'm writing, but the voice or something like I find for me, if I'm not able to resonate with the voice of whatever band or music, then I cannot get into the music.
Yeah.
The voice has to speak to me. It at least just has to not detract. From the music. It can be neutral. That's totally cool. But if it detracts in any fucking way and detracts my experience from feeling the music, which a voice will do, then I can't get into it.
Right. Yeah, you're not the first person I've heard to say that. It's such a big thing for people, the voice. Not what they're saying, or the guitar, or the drums, the production, it's the timbre of the voice does something for people. And I think what it does is, again, like what I mentioned earlier, music is a universal language because it has melody, pitch, timing, progression, dynamic, and most importantly, it has all that together, and that the timbre of it is really important. And when someone speaks, now you have language introduced which people can relate to. And people really relate to human voice. So if it's not hitting you right, forget it. Yeah, everything else just takes you out. Everything else could be great, and the voice just really matters to people.
It matters.
It's so many people like, I like that, but their voice.
Yeah.
Parents, kids, it doesn't really matter. It's always a qualm. People have like, the voice, or the voice is great. Oh, the voice isn't. It's just a voice thing.
Of course.
Always.
And it dictates whether I want to listen to it again.
It's not even what they're saying. No. Like pop music, most of the time, the lyrics are, let's be real, it's nothing to write home about. But it's the voice. I just love her voice. I love his voice.
Doesn't matter what he's saying.
They're saying the same stuff over and over again. Baby, I love you. Like it's the same thing every time. I need you. I messed up. I'm sorry. We get it. It's been going on for 70 years in pop music. It's the voice.
Right. I know. It's intense. So, it's crucial, but finding a place and figuring out like if you're gonna sing, like what's your wheelhouse and what works for you. It's a process, like any instrument you play or like anything you do. If it doesn't come naturally to you, you have to obviously work at it and do it and fail, whatever. But you find a way. I don't know, and then I don't know. Maybe, and then if singing, it's like, well, maybe singing ain't for you.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
got a shitty voice, don't sing.
I have a
but
hard
it doesn't
time with it.
matter.
I don't think my voice is good, so I don't really sing. But I always wanted to get into it. I might take some vocal lessons.
Yeah, I think vocal lessons are good, and just like how it's always about like breath. When I'm singing best, it's like, oh, it's because I took like a good quality breath before I sang that note. Because any like anxiety is going to create like a short breath rate, which is not going to allow you to project, and you're going to be nervous, so your voice is going to like crack. So it's like as long as like you're conscious of the breath, and like for like singing falsetto stuff, it's just like from the head, like like I'm up here in my head for sure is where like that like high falsetto voice is going to come from. I'm not going to project it from my chest, a high falsetto voice. It has to come from my mind. But if I'm doing just like how I'm talking to you, like that last song, that's more just like my natural like sound of voice. And then if we're playing like Kingfisher or something and we're shredding it out and I have to sing over drums and stuff, that'll come from my chest for sure.
Yeah.
But then it's like figuring out, because the voice as an instrument, it's coming out of your body. So you have to check in with your body at all times, where it's coming from and what's going on with your body and how's your throat, like are you drinking water, and like are you, like, and then if you're going to hit a high note, where are you hitting it from in your body? So it's very personal, and obviously like people can criticize your guitar playing, but if you have your voice criticized, it's so much more like painful.
Yeah.
Because it's like, but that's me.
That's me. There's no hiding behind it. It's the voice, I'd say the voice first and foremost is the most painful one. Like just speaking.
Right.
Just putting sound out of your throat and out of your lips.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing. It is the true place of social anxiety. People sitting around like, how do I even talk? What do I talk about? How long do I talk for? Am I embarrassing? I get it through text messages. I get so paranoid about a text message. I'll circle around it forever. Like, why did I say that? How did I say that? But mostly with someone you care about. You're just like, it just becomes overwhelming. And that's just the physical actualization of a voice, but you're not actually saying anything. And
that's why I like to do voice memos with people.
Oh, so like they send them a voice memo?
I send them a voice memo.
That's a good idea. I need to start doing that. It's texting serious things.
Lock and get lost. Oh my God, fuck that.
I try not to, but then like when that's your only option,
and
you send a massive thing,
Yeah, people interpret tone for sure, and tone can be misinterpreted.
That's why the internet is dangerous.
Is very dangerous.
Because it's all text.
Yes.
So I stick to conversation, podcasts, shows, reality.
Yeah.
Like this is reality. Like the internet's not reality.
Yeah,
it's
not.
It's the tip of the iceberg. It's a facade.
Right.
When people are on pages and they're posting like good things that happen, like that's just the one okay or decent thing that happened in that day. What about the other
shitty things that happened? I mean, I totally.
What is it? 84,000 seconds in a day or something?
Dude. Yeah.
What about the other ones?
I know. It's funny. I remember. I think there was some other time I was going through old pictures with somebody I was dating or something. It was like, oh, look at that picture. It was like, we got into the hugest fight like ever after this picture. Like, I can remember like dates of like, oh, maybe that was like projected as like, we're having fun. Like, no, we're not. Like, we're at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Like after that. So like everything people like whatever share on social media, you're getting us just the projection of like what they want you to perceive about them. Sure.
It sucks.
So it's not real.
It sucks doing it.
Yeah.
It sucks when you're like, people have to know that I'm like doing the thing, and I gotta promote it.
Right.
So therefore, I have to do this. But the way I try to treat it is, well, I try to be honest here and honest there, and so you can bridge the gap and understand. Like, yeah, it's all the same. Like
It is.
I try to promote people all the time, and always promote something I care about.
That's the hardest thing for me, at least with music and stuff. I like the writing of songs. I like recording songs. I like performance. But as far as like self-promotion and like wanting to like really be on the social medias and having all of them and being out there like with new content, it's just like I have a whatever relationship with myself. I like myself pretty much for the most part, but I'm not like here to be like me and my stuff all the time, especially when, again, within the last 3 or 4 years, situations in the world and the basically like semi-apocalypse we went through, it's like, why the fuck am I going to talk about me or feel like it? But I understand that's like a part of it, but it's like people have different ways of doing stuff like that, and we live in the world we live in, and obviously social media is a great way to connect and get in touch with other artists or people who are doing the same thing you're doing. But that's the part that doesn't always come as like naturally for me, because I probably tend to be more introverted anyway.
Yeah, so you think you're more of an introverted person?
I think so, yeah.
Were you like that when you were younger?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 5. So like everybody had language before I did in my family and were able to like communicate and express themselves. And like, so I'm the youngest of 5 and then my parents, so 7. So I just like, there was all these like older people doing these older things. And I think that kind of made me go into like sort of a shell on some level where then like, how I would fit in, where I'd like make a joke, and then like, oh, Paul's funny, and then I'd like shrink back and then I'd just like do like a joke or whatever. And I don't know, I have moments where I can be more extroverted and charismatic, but then for the most part, I tend to be more on the introverted spectrum, I would say.
That's interesting. I never understand that spectrum of extrovert versus introvert. Like I have no idea where a lot of people lie. I hear people self-proclaim things like what you did, but then I'll see different parts of it. It's really a perception thing. It's difficult. I don't know where I lie, honestly. I feel both all the time.
You're kind of both.
I have no idea.
I mean, I feel like I can, like with you or with other friends, like one-on-one, I can hardcore connect and dive deep and talk about whatever with anybody. But in like groups of like 8 to 15, I tend to probably maybe more shrink back.
Yeah, I feel you. I do too.
It just feels like I don't want to like be the master of ceremonies for the social gathering or whatever.
Yeah.
It's more just I just want to like chill.
It's weird. I feel, I know there's this big fest where a lot of people come to it. So you would think, or the shows, but I hide in them.
You're like a part of it. You're like the wizard stringing it all together, but you're not like necessary. I don't know. You're like living inside of the organism that is the fest.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like necessitate or require that you vocally are on a bullhorn or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I try to hide in the tent. I'll put on headphones with nothing coming through just to hide. It's an overwhelming place. And the same thing with the shows. I get to hide in the back and record, like hear the show through the headphones and like hide away. I don't, most of it is because I really don't want any of this to be about me. I want it to be about the things that are happening, the artists, the bands, the attendees, the neighborhood, the artwork that people made and put into it. All of it is about everyone else and not me. And that's how I feel about all the things I do. And it's more about the people. Like, yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird relationship. I've been having a lot of people here for many, many years. Lots of parties, and I would always facilitate them and then like go away, go hide, go play music in the basement. I always wanted to find an excuse to be away from everyone. really like where I got into baking cookies, where I'd have a party in the backyard,
Mm-hmm.
and then my excuse for not being around people would be, I'm going to go bake cookies for everyone.
Right,
I'd
right,
go
right.
in the house, and that'd give me an hour and a half, 2 hours of solitude.
Yeah.
While there's 50 people partying in
Yeah,
the cabin. I built.
having an activity though for you to do. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I was with my family in Indiana, and there was like 13 of us, and it was the first time we'd been all together in a couple years, and it was great. We're all like embedded with one another and reconnecting. But even still, like people have to take their time and go on a walk by themselves for like an hour or two, and our time is limited and precious. But it's like, but I still need to like come out of the group and then come back in.
Do you do that when you go see me on a walk? I do the same thing. When I visit my family in Indiana, it's funny you said that. A lot, 13, 14, 15 people, and every day I just like leave twice a day.
Yeah.
For like a long
hour
or two.
Yeah, to then like come back into, because of course, it's family. There's all like old, intense relationships.
Does anybody
and dynamics.
have a good, pure, just happy relationship with everyone in their family? Is that even possible?
I don't think so.
I don't know anybody that's like, family's great. I love everybody. It's like,
no.
family is just a group of people you're obligated to talk to, like through lineage and blood.
Yeah,
it's like you don't get along with everyone in the world, so like now you have to get along with these people.
No, it's absolutely not true.
It's relative too.
So, you're gonna have your stuff with everybody.
Can you have that uncle?
Yeah, can you be together though ultimately and like hang out and things be cool for the most part? Probably, but like
for one day.
For one day at least over time.
Oh, those when you get to like day 3, you're like, I gotta go.
I think I gotta go. Who are you people again?
You know what it is too? It's really never it's never my parents. My parents are cool. It's never it's always the extended family. Like parents are always my parents, they're pretty cool. I can hang. But it's the extended family thing. I'm not sure how you are with your family, but
I mean, I don't really talk at all to my mom's extended family and my dad's extended family, or like his brothers and their kids to some extent, for sure, like kind of normal relationship. But I mean, I've got 4 other siblings, and a couple of them have spouses and kids, and there's so many different dynamics happening between these 2 people and those 3 people and those 4 people.
It's their own little nuclear thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. It's probably an interesting place. Like, how do you feel about marriage and kids? Being at 40,
I think, it's definitely, I'm down. I'm down for it, actually.
He's down, people.
I'm down. Hey. It's, I don't know. It was, but only recently,
Oh, you only been down recently?
Yeah, only recently
since
within the last, since we sat down.
Since you made me want to have kids in May. Why recently?
Because I'm getting older, I guess, and I'm thinking more about like my life, and there's a weird fucking biological like urge, like I kind of want to procreate.
Isn't that weird?
It's very strange.
What you're saying to me right now, you're 9 years older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Do I look 31?
Yeah.
I never know. I always have to ask. I don't know how old I look. Like, you don't look 40. That's why I'm saying it. But anyway, I a lot of younger guys I know, they're always like, I'm not having kids. I'm like, you and every other guy ever has said that, especially in their 20s, especially in their mid-20s. Like, get out of here. You're having a kid, and if you're not, it's because something tragic happened.
Right.
Eventually, you're having one, trust me.
Something sort of weirdly happened where I was like, I think I need to do that. Whether it's like biologically or adoption, I don't know, but it's like not now. As a man, we do have the luxury of not being on like a biological clock necessarily.
Not as
challenging
hardcore
as
women. No.
Hardcore intensely
like your
as women.
semen, your sperm, it definitely is affected by age and diet, and which comes with age and stuff. But it's not nearly as bad.
It's not this rapid decline.
It's not dangerous
after 40.
It just might not be as strong, but it's not nearly as dangerous.
Right. So we do have that luxury. So And yeah, partnership, long-term life partner. Yeah, that's super. That is when I look at myself and as I'm like, wherever I'm going in life, that's something I want, So, just recognizing that more. And I am in a new relationship and it's lovely and amazing and awesome.
News
and
crazy, huh?
What's that?
News crazy.
News crazy because you go through past relationships that fail and you learn a shitload and it starts to formulate, well, what kind of relationship do I want to have that's going to be healthy for me, that works? How do I not fall back into bad patterns? How do I not introduce old shit from a past relationship or past anxieties from other relationships into the new one?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Have I healed enough from the past breakup or that trauma to be able to start fresh and anew with somebody else and be present and not do the things on my end that will lead to its dissolution, or be prepared for things that will challenge me and how I can handle them better.
Yeah. That's really wise. That's the bringing the things. It's selfish to think that you got to think oh, what are they bringing that from their past or their past relationships? You got to think about it in yourself too. I think about that every day with this new relationship. I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
Just especially when you go through a hard one.
Right.
My past one is very difficult, and when it's when it is traumatizing, you really need to think
it's
about
a death. It feels like death.
It does.
Because it is a death.
It feels like a death and no, what's the word I'm looking for? You get just no peace with it.
No, not initially. Not for a year or whoever knows how long it can take. I don't know.
Yeah.
Each situation's different.
Yeah, but you need them to learn.
You do,
you need
ultimately.
You need a lot of pain to learn.
You do. I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't have been in the place where I could be healthy enough to meet the new person in my life had I not gone through those heartbreaks. So
yeah,
it was all worth it.
Lots of
for
heartbreaks.
Sure. But it doesn't seem like it at the time when you're living through it and you're like, this is horrible and it's not going away. Every time I wake up, I'm back in it, or I'm having nightmares or dreams about that person and they're gone or whatever, and I'm living in hell. I want this to be over. What's going to cure this? And, it's. I think for me in the past, it was the only thing that's going to cure this is if I find somebody new, And then I'm seeing now, looking back on it with some perspective, oh no, that wasn't the cure.
That's not how you cure anything.
That's not how you cure it.
No.
And for me, I guess with, COVID and being single when it happened, and then just being I have to be kind of alone and think about it and learn more about myself and what matters to me and really refine that, and checking in with myself, because I did date, but then I would get to a point where I was I'm not fucking ready.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to get back into committed relationship with somebody where we're on a trajectory towards potentially marriage and kids and all that good stuff. So that's really fucking heavy, and I don't want to fuck around with anything really superficial if it's not going anywhere. At 40, it's time's really kind of precious.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
They might say they do. I just want to date. I just want to try something out. I want to have that fling stuff. And I'm people say that, and then they end up not liking it in hindsight. That was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
One night stands, all that. Most people do not actually enjoy it.
Oh my God, no.
They really don't. People want connection. They want to feel loved.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. That's why I spent the whole fall, winter, working on myself.
Right.
Not in a relationship, not needing that, not doing any of the hookup thing, anything like that. Just completely went inward. Just hardcore.
Well, I think the loneliest I've ever felt has been in a relationship. Yeah, so
heavy.
I don't necessarily a relationship doesn't solve your problems. It creates new ones. even the new one I'm in is amazing, like best of relationship I've been in so far in my life. But it's still like we have our stuff that we have to like figure out, you know.
Yeah,
And
you're an adult. Life's
right,
crazy.
life's crazy, and like it's bringing up other stuff for me that like I have to reckon with, you know. So
the universe doesn't care about your feelings. I say it all the time.
it doesn't.
It just doesn't.
And
It's not a person.
it's not.
He will throw things at you all day.
So you have to be good with you, number one,
Yeah.
ultimately, if you're going to be in anything healthy and worthwhile, that's not going to turn into something toxic or whatever. Because the feeling of like isolation in partnership is like one of the worst I've ever had. But like being alone, single, and like connected to myself is wholesome. Of course I don't feel alone. I'm connected to me.
Yeah, that's it. That's wise. Wise words from a 40-year-old man with
I know.
many years of experience.
Oh gosh. And more to come.
Yeah. Oh, I hope. What time is it? You got to bounce?
I gotta bounce in a little bit. It's okay.
We'll wrap up.
We can kind of wrap up. That's kind of
Anything
a nice.
else you want to say on those heavy words?
No, just like be good to yourself, everybody. Be easy.
Yeah.
Be compassionate. Learn.
Listen.
Listen.
Be patient.
Be patient.
See things from the other perspective.
See things from another perspective. Be good with you. Learn some languages if you can. It's always fun. Learn music. Learn new skills.
Try new things.
Try new shit. Be bad at it for a while.
Suck at life.
Do it because you want to.
Yeah.
Ultimately. Do it because it's for you.
And find someone you love.
And find someone you love.
All right.
Yes.
Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Ben,
it was great to see you
sincere
after
pleasure.
a 3-year hiatus.
Just a little hiatus.
Just a little one.
But it was just like a weird little time warp vortex. Now here we are chilling.
And eventually I'll see you in LA.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Come there.
Please.
We'll do some sessions.
For sure.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
It would be extremely cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks, man. Love you.
Love you too.